Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Just gonna give another minute or two for more people to join, and then I'll begin. Thank you. All right. Well, let's get this thing going. Welcome to our fifth EmpowerED Climate Summit. This is part of a rolling workshop series that is designed and intended to be a place where we can come together and strategically redesign education globally to map to global sustainability. We will be learning from renowned leaders across the world, and they are from various disciplines, and we'll be collaborating on ways that we can move these ideas forward and combine them into holistic solutions for the planet. My name is Tracy. I've seen many of you, and I'm part of the WSS Empowered Unity team, and I'll be the moderator for this event. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat. For other members of our team, there's Julie, Cheryl, and Rowana. Thank you for the support. So please put a 1 in the chat if this is your first time attending one of these summits, and a 2 or other number if this is a repeat summit for you. Gonna stop sharing. We've got a couple first timers, some second and third. Well, thank you to those who are here for the first time. Very much appreciate it. And we want to thank you for making the effort to be here. We know it's different time zones for everyone in the room. So please let us know where you are and what time it is so we can appreciate and honor your commitment and see where you are. We've got Denver, Colorado, 8:30 a.m., Philippines, 10:35 p.m., Pakistan, Paris, Florida, Arizona, Los Angeles, Portugal. So it's morning someplace in many places and evening in some. Thank you. So there will be people from all over the world, as you can see, and we suggest to turn on closed captions just in case you want to see the words people are saying if you can't understand them auditorily. And I also wanted to mention that we are on YouTube for our first time live. So if you have any issue with your name being seen or your face, you can change your name or just not be on camera, just in case you don't want that to be shared publicly too much. All right, I'm going to introduce the program agenda now. And So today we have three featured speakers. We have Cindy Forde from Planetary. We have John Jones from World System Solutions. He's taking the place of Carolyn Hammersmith, who had a family emergency. So thank you, John, and sorry to Carolyn. We also have Howard Martin from HeartMath. And so we'll begin by hearing a little overview about this program from John Jones, and then we'll hear from each speaker for 15 minutes, Cindy, John, and then Howard, and then we will open it up to a group discussion and a question Q&A panel with the speakers. And then we'll close. So pretty simple, and thank you again for choosing to be here. Now I'm going to give the stage over to John Jones to help us understand why we're here and
Tracy, I just want to make sure there was a slideshow. I want to make sure that you have that available, and if there's anything I can do to get that to you.
Thank you so much. I have the slideshow right here, so I'll bring it up. Thanks for reminding me. Whenever you're ready, John.
Wonderful, and thank you. My name is John Jones. I'm the CEO of World System Solutions. We're a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Our intention is to work together with the world, the global community, to develop all the necessary tools, resources, and technologies, and to develop a platform that will deliver that along with all necessary educational offerings in order to help the world synchronize and organize optimally to solve the climate crisis. Right now, in our world, there is not a system for integrating and synthesizing all the necessary data, tools, resources, money, co-creative capacity that humanity has to offer in order to generate a requisite transformational influence or process in the world that would bring about this resolution to the poly crisis or the climate crisis, however we would refer to it, within the time available. So everyone's efforts are vitally important at this time. All of them are excellent efforts, and there isn't a way to combine them as of yet to create necessary catalytic synergy. And we understand that, we appreciate that, and that's why in our view, we must all come together as a species, as a global community, in order to apply all of them in a well-aligned, organized, orchestrated, efficient, effective, collective, collaborative effort. And a key element of that occurring is education. Education is part of it. It's core. If we're not synchronized on our education, we can't organize effectively and efficiently. In addition to that, we need a system by which that educational capacity can be applied. And so we're doing our best to design that system in concert and in collaboration with the global community and folks such as yourselves. The educational system as it stands at this time, according to the United Nations, is experiencing what might be termed a triple crisis. The equity and inclusion component of that educational crisis is that many people in the world have access to little or no education, certainly not standardized, and certainly not mapped to the needs of the youth of the world and human beings in the present moment. Simultaneously, there's a vast gap between the current educational system's offerings and what is necessary for children of today to build the world of the future together. Closing that gap is our intention, and doing so in such a way as to be able to deliver that quality education is vital. In addition, the crisis of the quality of education itself, again, it's not standard, it's not fulfilling necessary baseline requirements, it's not of adequate quality to empower the population of the world in all necessary ways, and it's not being delivered in an adequate manner to all people in the world, even though the technology exists today. The third element of this is the crisis of relevance of learning and education, meaning there's an inadequate foundational understanding in the world of when, where, how, and why Optimized education is one of the core pillars and or elements of the transformational process into global sustainability, renewal, reharmonization with the planet, and regeneration of the planet so that it will be here for future generations. Next slide. So right now, according to the United Nations, 50% of curriculum documents that have been analyzed in 100 countries don't mention climate change, much less the poly crisis. So in essence, although there may be a great deal of angst in the world about the symptomology of the climate crisis, there's an inadequate understanding of it that's being delivered to in necessary ways to at-risk populations, as well as to industrialized nations who have the capacity to dial down carbon and methane production and hydrofluorocarbon production in the world, to cease their polluting, if you will, nor is the education available to at-risk populations and women in particular in our world who are they're half the population of the world. They're a necessary key core component to the solution of the climate crisis. So that curriculum information is not available to them. They don't have the capacity then to understand the true nature of the challenge we face as a species. Therefore, how can they take adequate action? How can they organize? How can they understand what to do, when, where, how, and why to do it, and do so in such a way as to get the requisite change within the, now, if we understand from science, 4 years to act globally, decisively, constructively, and in orchestrated union. So 7.71 million young people lack basic literacy, and 2/3 of those are women. This is a vast disservice that our educational systems in the world are doing towards women and towards youth. We cannot solve the climate crisis without women. We cannot solve the climate crisis without youth. We need them in positions of leadership. They cannot get into those positions of leadership without education. So we are not just causing ourselves difficulties, we're inhibiting our own capacity to respond successfully, constructively, and effectively. Next slide. So while the climate crisis is disproportionately impacting at-risk nations and communities, youth and women in underrepresented groups. So not only are they not getting the education they need, they're not represented. They're not participants in the leadership decisional paradigm of the world. And we must redesign education, and that's what EmpowerED is about. Foundational transformation of the educational system in order to generate this necessary capacity to understand, empowered capacity to respond, empowered capacity to collaborate, empowered capacity to, at the local level, the community level, and at the global level, to understand the nature of the situation we have created as a species, and to change ourselves and all world life processes to meet that challenge in a healthy way. So in our view, synchronized transformational education and coordinated organized action with all requisite tools and resources and financing and information and shared standard quality data is absolutely necessary in order to solve the poly crisis and the climate crisis. If we don't have those, we don't get traction. We don't get adequate response. We don't get effect. So that means redefining what education is and what its purpose is. In our view, in this moment of global crisis, education is only education if it is directly supportive of generating sustainability, global health for all species, including humanity, regeneration of the environment and renewal, and reharmonization of humanity with the planet in such a way as to continue its ecosystem viability. Next slide. So these rolling EmpowerED workshops are designed to do that, to generate and foster humanity's capacity to align and integrate co-creatively and to build, to rebuild, to transform ourselves comprehensively as a species, as global communities, as nations, as peoples, as races, as genders, as age groups, together in collaborative harmony. and your voices are vital. We're looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts today in this process, in this EmpowerED program and process. And we hope that you will reflect upon what inspired you to join today, what understandings brought you to this moment of collaborative process. We're trying to foster and create just a container for this conversation, as well as to generate what we term the Phoenix platform, which is a platform designed to collect all of the data, all of the resources, all of the expertise, all of the co-creative capacity, and apply it in a constructive, well-organized, efficient, effective way so that there can be a synchronizing system for global orchestrated efforts that can move the needle and get traction on transformation that will solve the climate change issues and symptomology, and simultaneously will generate a new world that will be healthy and wholesome for every species and the children of the future. Next slide. So in our SURF programs, which dovetail and work well with the EmpowerED program, we bring together experts of various kinds, transdisciplinary experts. They work together. They generate understandings of what capacities are needed in the world, which don't exist right now, what infrastructure is needed in the world, which doesn't exist right now, and how to create it. And then downline from that, the second version of our SURF programs is designed to transform local communities together collaboratively, democratically, and successfully and effectively and efficiently into sustainability, renewal, and reharmonization. A global network needs to come together. It needs a platform. Right now, all of the thousands or millions of platforms on the planet don't work together. They're not integrated. They're pieces of a puzzle that are beating out of time with each other. They're not synchronized, they're not organized, they're not efficient, they're not effective, they don't share data, they're not standard. They can't move the needle because they're not working together. Next slide. This is just so you'll have it in your recording, this is our current design for the Phoenix platform, a community collaboration engine that brings communities together to work together. An organization network engine that brings organizations together to work together, and nations and government institutions. Three different types of education, transformational education: SURF, EmpowerED, and the Pulse Transformational Education System, which delivers tailored education to any individual based on their preference and needs anywhere in the world. That's what we're building. The collaboration engine to help people learn to work together. The climate scale engine to generate projects so there can be an economy, a green economy, a decision support AI so that we can effectively generate, ensure that every decision that's made in regard to all of these projects, thousands or millions of projects moving forward, will map to sustainability, renewal, and reharmonization. Because if we don't have that verification, that verifiability, we don't really know whether we're solving it or not. And of course, the innovation and solutions engine, which is where the solutions are being designed, developed, and implemented in the future when this platform is produced and fielded. Next slide. Lastly here, we understand this transformation of education must occur at all levels. It's not just in college, and it's not just in high school. It's got to be a continuity. It's got to be a constant renewal. The current system is not designed to transform itself. It's not designed to evolve, especially not in time with the needs of the global community or even any particular nation. The United States educational system is not designed to do this as of yet. Your efforts today, as well as the EmpowerED process efforts and the SURF project efforts and the Phoenix platform are all designed to bring about this transformational result so that we can create a future for the children of our world that they will want to live in and that will be happy and joyful, where they will have voices that are heard and empowerment and balanced, equitable, inclusive leadership capacity should they choose to participate in those ways. I believe that's the last slide. Thank you for being here, folks. You're wonderful, and we appreciate you And we hope you enjoy the presentations. All the presenters are wonderful.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate that. I have one more slide that I forgot to bring up for my little intro share, and then I'll introduce Cindy. I can find this. So just a little piece of information. John was talking about the Phoenix platform, and a lot of that is AI supported. So what we've been practicing with at WSS is generating syntheses and summaries of our times together, whether it be at the SURF forums or EmpowerED. So once we have our whole meeting, well, this meeting's being recorded, and as are most of our meetings, or all of them. And once it is, we have the transcript, we synthesize, we make a summary of it, and we share that on our website. So every summit has a full report on what we've conclusions we've come to together. And then overall, say there's been 12 summits, then we can even synthesize all 12 of those to find new information that we may not have seen before. So that is available. We'll send the summary to you afterwards. And if if you would not like any of your answers or your chat comments factored into the summit or the summary, please just write to Cheryl in the chat, private message her, and she will make note of that. So the point of this is that all of your voices matter, and whatever you put in the chat or speak out loud will be factored into our summary, and it will be accounted for. So now, without further ado, I'd love to introduce Cindy Forde, our first featured speaker. Cindy is a thought leader and acclaimed author with over 25 years dedicated to systems change. In 2023, she won the Change Champion Award alongside leaders such as David Attenborough and Malala Yousafzai. Her groundbreaking children's book, Bright New World, Building a Better Planet, garnered critical acclaim, was selected among the best new children's books by The Guardian, and hailed as outstanding by New Scientist. It has been adopted by the Australian National Curriculum. She is the founder of Planetary, pioneering Earth-led education, earning a Climate Positive Award at the UN COP28. Previously MD of Blue Marine Foundation and CEO of Cambridge Science Centre, she has an MSc in Sustainability and Business Practice, is guest faculty at University of Cambridge's Homerton Changemakers program, and she serves on the steering committee of She Changes Climate, among other boards. She was also named a Shiro for Black History Month in 2023 by Environment Magazine, and is currently writing a book on colonization and climate change. This work is so important, and we're so eager to hear from you. Thank you, Cindy, for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Tracy. It's a real pleasure to be with you all. Yeah, and thank you so much to everybody who's joined the summit. I know anyway, I know some of you, but I also know, I can see from the chat, I know that the reasons that you're here, that you really are incredible people, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing for our world. A lot of my work does take me into rooms with leaders in business and academia, all kinds of places really, but it's when I'm in rooms like this that I feel that I'm with the most important people in the world, not only because of the work that you're actually doing on the ground, but because of the fact that you're willing to entertain thinking differently, thinking systemically in the way that's going to build the pathway for us to safety as a human family. So Really grateful to be here with you all today. Cheryl, may I share my my screen, please? Because I'd like to, maybe it's a bit more interesting. I will just talk, but I have some images which might be a bit more interesting than just watching me. So I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay. Let me see. Can you all see my screen? Could you just indicate whether that's visible now? I'll just start from slideshow start. Yeah, I'm really delighted to follow John. It's not easy to follow John, but I'm very glad that I am, because I think he's made such an excellent summary of where we are. So forgive me if some of this recaps that. Yes, absolutely. We have to. This is the brilliant British Nigerian poet Ben Okri. He's telling us that we need these new forms of creativity and imagination to face this threat, and we have to be honest about where we are. We can only make a future from the depth of the truth we face now, which John did such an incredible job of summarizing for us. Well, I think probably everybody on the call knows this. We are in code red. This is what the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, you know, he's put that call out loud and clear at the COP 2 years ago. And so the reality is that we really have only this handful of years remaining to change our value and belief system to align with Earth's operating system. And that really, the heart of our belief system comes with how we're educated. This is the fantastic Professor David Orr's work. He points out that all of our life support systems, planetary support systems, are in jeopardy. But this, if you look, 80% of only 3% of people go to university. 80% of our world leaders have been university educated. So what on earth have they been learning there? Because this is not the work of ignorant people. It is the result of work by people with BAs, BScs, law degrees, MBAs, PhDs. It's what we are systemically training people to do that is replicating the problems that we keep getting. So we really must challenge our education system at the heart of the transformation that we need in all our systems, our energy, our food, our transport, how we treat our rainforest, how we educate women, how we include women and girls. At the heart of that is our dominant cultural narratives, how we train ourselves, enable ourselves to understand our world and to think. The great Doris Lessing puts it brilliantly here. We are, when we go to school, or even it's wider than the school, because it's also our media system, our the information system that is imbued into us. It really is a process of indoctrination. And in recognizing that, we can break that indoctrination and we can make better choices. That's but what Ben Okri is saying as well. If we understand the wider story of the human family, how we got here, we can make better choices of how we move forward. But if we remain imprisoned in the indoctrination that we have, the education system was designed post-industrial revolution. It may have served a certain group of people at that time, but it's so wholly out of step with what we need now that we have to recognize how it shaped us in order to break forward. And I just use this slide to demonstrate the depth of that, because here we have the Hollywood machine that steps in with these really powerful stories. The cowboys and Indian story, one you're very familiar with, with respect to everybody in this call. America has a very complicated history. It is built on large-scale genocide and slave labor, but the myth-making machine has turned that horror into heroism very, very deliberately through telling the story in another way to erase a past and to create this sense of greatness that possibly never was. If you contrast that with the incredible work of the First Nations Professor Jack D. Forbes, I think the title of this book speaks for itself, Columbus and Other Cannibals. He goes into the story from the other side of what people were seeing. I'll just spend a tiny minute on that. When the First Nations people saw, because what's happened to Earth is something called terraforming, which means whole-scale ecosystems have been taken out to either resettle in the colonial project or to use Earth's resources as commodities. And this was so out of anything that the First Nations people could comprehend. They called it, when they couldn't believe that they were seeing the wholesale destructions of the forests, of the buffalo, everything just coming down. that they called it wetico. And they thought that this was a deep psychological illness that was based on power and greed. And they said, this is going to destroy our world and we won't be able to check it, and it will spread and it will take everybody's world unless we can rethink how we, unless we can work with these people to rethink how we live in balance with our ecosystem. So that's, that's going back a couple of 100 years, that they recognize the incompatibility of a system that's designed really to commoditize everything and to train people to go into this machine. As this incredible Vandana Shiva, she's a physicist, she's also an author and activist. A lot of her work is done on genetically modified crops, but she says, this Western education system, it doesn't really equip people to deal with to understand ourselves really as part of a whole ecosystem. It really creates young people that can go into this kind of industrial production system, so that you either win, a winner looks like somebody who comes out on the top and then can themselves manage the process of commoditization, or you lose, in which case you become a kind of cog in the machine, a drone in the wheel, and you have to accept that you failed and that you can work on these kind of low-level jobs, as opposed to really understanding the gifts that human beings bring, which we each do, and applying them, to enable us to be stewards of planet Earth. So, what my work in pioneering Earth-led education does, which I suspect a lot of you on the call are also doing, is trying to shift away from this egocentric worldview, which sees man, and it is generally men, at the top of this kind of weird pyramid, where we're the apex predator, to seeing us as part of an ecosystem, because we all know that a system where an apex predator eats everything collapses, and we are getting to that stage. As John pointed out, we have a handful of years now to rebalance our ecosystem. We cannot continue to consume everything and expect the ecosystem to sustain us. So we're trying to shift from the earliest years, because I think young people land eco-literate. So it's really fostering that sense that we are an ecosystem, and that everything that we learn how to do, we learn how to do within the planetary boundaries and with respect for all other life on Earth. We know that we are an interconnected system, and whatever happens to us, as Chief Oren Lyons puts it so brilliantly, whatever befalls Earth also befalls the children of Earth, so that we now enable, we create stories, we create education systems, we create curriculum that support the web of life. So this is just a little picture from my book, Bright New World. This kind of I'll show you another little slide earlier on. It goes just beyond education is a whole imaginative system to create young humans who are engaged, inspired, equipped to be the innovators and the entrepreneurs of a brighter world. Some of you may be familiar with the work of Buckminster Fuller. What we have now is children who come out of a school system primed to go into this economic, to as I say, either the top, whichever place that their educational qualifications enable them to participate, they're still going into an economic system. And we don't really have the language to talk about sometimes what's happening to us, which is why I really like this word that Buckminster Fuller coined. It's called obnoxico. It's just people go into these jobs to produce more stuff that we don't really need in a system that's extracting resources at this a phenomenal rate and exploiting often the people and the land that the resources are coming from, or the people in the process of making it, while you're being told that that's the only thing that as human beings that we can do. So, creating a new language, I think, is really important to enable us to think about this, because a lot of the jobs that we're encouraging our young people to go out and take part in are really obnoxico. They're things that will just keep this system going, even though that they know that's very, very disheartening for young people at the moment, because they kind of know that that's the thing that's fueling their demise, but they're still being told that it's the only way to get ahead. So we really need to equip our young people to be stewards of planet Earth, because there's hugely productive work that we can do here. We don't need to throw everything out the window. We just need to design whatever it is, whether it's architecture, whether it's energy, whether it's how we design our cities. All of these things can be done in line with Earth's life support system. And it's hugely valuable, hugely exciting, brilliant work. You know, when I take this stuff into schools, I've never seen children so motivated. They come up with such fantastic ideas. You know, many of them already think of what is already happening, even though that they don't know that. And it gives them, you know, it gives them hope that they can be part of co-creating this world where we all can thrive. And there's nothing stopping us doing that. We have left it till the 11th hour. You know, we are without a doubt in a perilous situation, but the biggest impediment to us transforming, stepping into the world that we can have, is the way that we think. Most of the solutions that we need, I've been told not to use the word solutions anymore, but interventions, because we are in such a critical state. They already exist. They're already happening. There's people already all over the world working on them. So if we tell that story early in the classrooms and equip our young people to be part of that, to be trained to be architects that think in line with planet Earth, to be trained to be engineers that work within the planetary boundaries, to be trained to be storytellers that tell stories of collaboration, of working together, we can have a chance of being part of a world that can thrive. This is a small project. I won't go into much detail on it because of time, but this is something I did in collaboration, or Planetari did, with the Blue Marine Foundation. So we created resources that talk about how to care for our oceans. We did it in a really a way that engaged communities of young people all around the world. So you've got the kids at the top are living on the Maldives, they're living on the coral reefs that the children in England are learning about how to protect. That's that top corner there with the little girl in the red shirt. At the bottom corner, you've got some children in Ascension Island. They're delighted because in that book, the pop-up that you can see is actually their home. That's that Blue Marine Foundation created that as a marine protected area. And so they can see their world popping up there. And then all the children talk to each other to say they all learned how to protect our oceans, how marine protected areas work. And then they could exchange their ideas and their experiences, you know, in real time across the planet, so that you could see whatever happened, you know, the actions that you take in the UK affect what happens thousands of miles away in the Maldives, or what the action that these children are taking in St. Helena Island. Their whole island's become a marine protected area. Their whole community have learned how to fish sustainably. You know, they can tell that story to the children in these different parts of the world, so that you can see how regeneration can happen. And that will mean that there's food. The ocean as a resource can produce food for a long time and can be kept in great health. But the main point of this is, is thinking differently, that you can engage global communities of young people so that they are interconnected and they can understand the causes and effects of the action that they have on, in different parts of our ecosystem. So just very, very briefly on this. So you've seen the book Bright New World. That's kind of our core curriculum. It's divided into 12 systems areas, so that these are the things that currently are the biggest problems cause biggest pressure on the planetary boundaries: our rainforests, our oceans, how we travel, how we design our food systems, how we design our energy systems. But we're enabling with building the curricula so that the disciplines, multidisciplinary, work through those topics, and the children understand how these things can actually be made as part of the solution. And that's all wrapped up, as I said, in these imaginative stories, games, animations, films that create a mindset of care, of collaboration, of being part of a world where I'll read a beautiful quote at the end, but we're not driven by these dreams of domination or these models of domination and destruction and extraction. We create an imaginative environment where children are imbued with the values of collaboration, of care and nurturing. This is, it's fascinating the levels that you can do that. Just, very quickly, this is an anthropologist called Wade Davis, and he grew up in British Columbia. And he said, the forests that I grew up in, they just don't exist anymore because we just saw them as commodities. Whereas the mythology of the First Nations people, the Quaqua, they saw that as a spiritually sacred place. You've got the myth of Raven, which many of you will know. It doesn't mean that you take it literally, but it gives you this sense of these spiritually protected areas that are essential for for human life to continue. So when your mind is shaped like that, it's impossible just to go in and hack those forests down without actually understanding the effect that will have on you. So it is creating, or going back to, in a way, these kind of mythologies. A brilliant leader. This is Namonte Nkemo, who many of you will have heard of. She's a very powerful Ecuadorian leader of the indigenous people, and she stood up against an oil company that was annexing, huge tracts of the Ecuadorian rainforest, and she won. But she, what she's talking about is I think she nails it brilliantly. She wrote a letter to an open letter to world leaders, and basically used this word, kawari. We have immense power that you can see in this. We can go in and we can bulldoze almost anything. We're at the controls now of planet Earth, but we don't have the wisdom to know how to use that power. And that's what this type of earth-led education is about. It's about giving us that wisdom back to match the power that we have, the wisdom that did exist in earlier societies, not just First Nation societies and indigenous societies. I think, many cultures did have that wisdom, before this acceleration of commoditization of everything, as I call it, the imperial project. So it is really learning again how to use the power that we have, the power that's accelerating as AI comes into play. We really must have the wisdom to use that, because if not, we cannot find this balance again. So I think it's going to involve everybody. This is the brilliant Eldridge Cleaver, who was instrumental in the civil rights movement. You'll all know the quote. It's absolutely true. If we're sitting here doing nothing, I'd rather probably use a quote from the Dalai Lama here. He said, there's only 2 days a year that doesn't matter what you do. And he said one of those is yesterday, and the other one is tomorrow, because what we do today makes a difference. What we do today makes a real difference. We can act, and our collective action is what will take us forward. It's not, if we sit there and we say we're too overwhelmed, we are then part of the problem. We have to find the small things that we can do, or some of us, the bigger things that will lead us forward, to this place of the possibility of building these pathways to safety. I'd really like to recommend this book if you've got time. I'm sure you're all really busy, but it's by the brilliant Amitav Ghosh, and he looks at, when Tracy very kindly mentioned I'm writing a book on colonization and climate change, but it was very much inspired by Amitav's work, because it really does make you see our journey so much differently. When I mentioned very briefly this concept of terraforming, but really how the last 500 years have shaped our land systems, because we've used them either to resettle or as resources, but also in order to justify doing that, it's shaped our cultural narratives, our philosophies, the philosophy of the Enlightenment, the manifest destiny, the civilizing mission, the white man's burden. We've told ourselves these stories that have enabled us to believe that we have a right somehow, and this is, or perhaps not even the right, this is the only way that we can live on Earth. And reading this book, or there's other wonderful books like it, I would thoroughly recommend this one, though, is a really good step in unpicking that in your mind. It is that kind of liberation by being able to recognize how we got here, as I mentioned at the beginning, to be able to make these better choices for how we move forward, to think differently. That's the last section of my book, Bright New World. And I will read this quote to finish, because this is what I thoroughly believe, and I think this is what everybody's on this call really to be part of. The fantastic LaDonna Braveball Allard, who was so instrumental in the Standing Rock, standing against the taking of indigenous lands for more oil exploration. She said that a shared vision for humanity exists, whether we see it or not. Our task is to become receptive to it, to see it, to make it visible and activate it, using all means of communication, so that our collective imagination will no longer be driven by dreams of destruction and downfall, but elevated by the possibility of worldwide healing and unification. It's such a pleasure to be with you today, because I feel that that's the spirit of the people in this room. So thank you very much indeed.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much,
Hello,
Cindy. Hello.
hello, everyone.
Hi, Bald. We are going to do comments and questions after we hear the other two speakers. Okay?
Yeah, I'm a speaker too.
Oh,
I
no,
want to play.
we have three
Uh,
feet.
uh,
We would love to hear you speak, and we have three featured speakers today, Cindy, John, and Howard, and then you can speak. Is that okay?
it's okay. I'm sorry for that because I want to present my project
Okay, well, we can
with
do that
us.
later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cindy. I loved how you brought in so many faces of different cultures and people who have spoken these important words, and you're bringing them into the conversation as well. And we look forward to learning more about your book. And so, like I said, in the chat, and I forgot to mention, we'll do questions and comments with the speakers after we hear everyone. And if you have a question that you don't want to, that you want us to save for you, you can type it in while they're speaking, and then we'll bring it in for the discussion part. So, yeah, thank you again, Cindy.
My pleasure.
Okay, I'm going to, oh, and I also, yeah, didn't just remember to share your contact information here. So if you want to get in touch with Cindy, her email's here, her LinkedIn, and her website. So you could screenshot this. I don't have the capability of putting the links in right now in the chat, but maybe a team member can, or you can just grab them with your screenshot. Thank you. All right, next we're going to hear from John Jones. He's the CEO, primary founder, and architect of the WSS organization and Phoenix Platform Initiative. He's a content creator and a spiritual compass. For 20 years, John has served as an organizational consultant, taught courses on personal transformation, functioned as a life coach, and is the author of 2 books covering topics related to global transformation, spiritual development, and emotional healing. One is called A World Without Fear, and the other is called Enter the Era of Empowerment. John also worked for 14 years as an information systems programmer, a database designer, a network administrator, business analyst, and a project manager and researcher of organizational change. Like I said earlier, he's covering or filling in because for Carolyn Hammersmith, who's a trustworthy AI expert, and John is very keen on ethical AI as well, so he's going to help us to learn about the same subject. And I have to switch over slideshows actually, so give me a moment.
I just want to say thank you so much, Cindy. Tracy, you're doing excellent.
Oh, thank you so much, Joy. All right, let's welcome John again and let him share on the subject of ethical AI.
Thank you very much. And I apologize for the simplistic information on the screen today. I'm going to be mostly speaking. We had to respond quickly to Caroline's not being available today. And I'm going to ask Tracy if she could add append to the end of this slideshow the third slide, which is the one that shows the 3 superordinate goals of regeneration, renewal, and sustainability, because it will directly apply to this presentation. So AI ethics in general it may be considered a philosophy or a field or something that most people's lives are not directly affected by, nor necessarily a part of the conversation of the climate crisis, and I would suggest that it's vital. If we see ethics, values, and beliefs and our referenced history, individual and collective, as the informing resources or reference points, along with all the education we've received up until this moment in our lives, as our process of creating and determining decisions and our actions, and thus world results, and thus the generation process of life on this planet as we experience it. If we don't understand what we value, if we don't understand what's important, if we don't understand what is a necessary priority, and if our beliefs are not aligned with that, and if our ethical models that we operate from that support our decision models, that support our application of resources and technology in the world are not all aligned with sustainability, renewal, and reharmonization, then we don't apply resources optimally. We don't apply them with love. I'd suggest that any ethical model that's not based in love is not an ethical model. If it's not based in love, kindness, care, and compassion and service intention to all of humankind, as well as every species on the planet and the earth itself, it's not a valid ethical model. Therefore, it's not a valid decisional model. Therefore, it's not a valid basis for developing any technology that would then be applied in the world, because it will cause problems. It will generate an unhealthy environment. Because if our ethics, our values, our beliefs, and our referenced history are not supportive of collective global health of humanity and every species on the planet and the ecosystem, the planet itself, then we can't generate a healthy future for humanity and children. I agree with everything that Cindy said in her presentation. Brilliant insights and vitally necessary information to transdisciplinarily inform this conversation, which will then inform Howard's conversation, which will then hopefully be turned into a synthesis, if you will, in all your hearts, minds, and souls, as to say, all of these are key pieces to the puzzle of our solving the climate crisis, all three of these presentations, and they're all facets of the same diamond. They're all parts of the same process. So I'm going to have to curtail my my presentation, it appears. So I'll cut to the chase. AI in its present moment is not ethical, profoundly not ethical. If it's being generated by current educational systems that are not focused on transformation into sustainability and into renewal, regeneration, and reharmonization with the planet. Our baseline definition of ethics is, does it generate that future? If it doesn't, it's not ethical. If it doesn't, it's not truly based in necessary values. And it's not going to create a healthy future for the planet or for our children. Right now, our current technology base is, in its totality, is toxic to the planet. That's really a foundational statement. Everything we've innovated, everything we call a solution, everything we call a minimal viable product is currently, for the most part, toxic to the planet. So that's not a judgment, that's not a criticism. No one's done anything wrong. The world isn't bad. Human beings are not bad as a species, and we're not aligned with the health of the planet. And we need to become aligned with the health of the planet. Until and unless we do, we will continue to shoot ourselves in the foot, metaphorically. We will continue to damage the future that could be the home and place of life for our children and for other species. We will continue to wantonly create extinction. Perhaps 1 million more species by 2050 will go extinct via this process of our operating from exploitation and colonization and extraction mindsets and mentalities, placing profit first. As an organization, we would suggest as an ethical value that money has no value at all unless it is fully aligned with sustainability, renewal, regeneration, and reharmonization with the planet. Any other utilization of application of money beyond that, those as superordinate values and ethical goals and priorities is invalid. I would also suggest that work, redefining work on this planet, ethically aligning it with those superordinate goals is vitally necessary. If we don't align every bit of work that we do for the rest of the next 100 years, perhaps, with sustainability, regeneration, and reharmonization with the planet, we will miss the mark. We will not get traction. We will not get impact. We will not transform gracefully and harmoniously and with minimal pain and loss and suffering and loss of life and species. We just won't do it because we're doing something else. Foundationally, we're choosing otherwise. We must embody our ethics. So this necessity for organized collaboration to generate global health, we would refer to as murmuration, the healthy movement of a flock of birds or a school of fish or a herd of animals. We must operate that much in harmony with the ecosystem. If we don't, we'll be operating out of harmony with the health of the ecosystem. As Cindy was saying, any predator that begins consuming everything in the environment is going to generate a dysfunction in the environment. We have amplified our predatory tendencies as a species via technology, and we're about to do that with AI. We're already doing it with AI. We are attacking our own children with social media and misinformation, generating division in the world, and that's not ethical. And that's not a process of education, of healthy education. And businesses and all of their algorithms that are currently not aligned with these superordinate goals are, in our view, harming children and the world today and all other species on the planet and future generations. Next slide. So AI is a powerful tool. And if you ever heard the expression, the tail wagging the dog, well, money wags the dog. Money uses us. We don't use money. Our current value, our current application, our current understanding of money is defining our future. We must change its meaning. Ethics are about what means something to us and how we operate from that meaning. What we value, what we prioritize, what we love, what we care about, what we're willing to give to and for, what we're willing to apply and go through pain and heartfelt suffering if necessary for our children's futures. What could be more important than that? So we can harm ourselves. We're winding in problems today with AI. We're dividing humanity rather than uniting and mobilizing, organizing, and generating collaboration with AI. That must change globally as fast as possible. The investment in AI for any other reason is, in our view, from an ethical vantage point, an educational vantage point, a business vantage point, is not valid. We must put a line in the sand in regard to AI development. And there are very few ways to do that. And one of them is to generate an AI commons, which we advocate as an organization, where standard ethics, standard policy making, standard governance and policing, when we're how and why necessary, and standard application of all data and curation of all data, it occurs. If we do not have that, then we will have this sporadic hit or miss, out of sync, battling each other, competing over the scraps of the world, what's left over in terms of resources, nationally and internationally, and remain blind and obscured to the true nature of the polycrisis while the Titanic sails on to the iceberg. We need a new navigation system. AI can be it. And we're doing our best to build that into the Phoenix platform. That said, somehow, some way, whether it's a United Nations effort or whatever, it must occur. There is no other technology which will allow us to organize, aggregate, collaborate, efficiently apply resources, make wise decisions collectively, individually, and locally, and generate the necessary traction to to generate sustainability, reharmonization with the planet, and regeneration of the planet, which we have toxified and damaged through our current agricultural methods, etc. If there's no adequate decision AI support system, there'll be no adequate decision, no adequate organized efforts. There will be no adequately informed and educated efforts. There will be no necessarily scalable efforts that get traction and impact positive, constructive influence and transformational influence in the world. And that's why we have been at a standstill as a species for the last 40 years, knowing the problems that face us right now. We have not had a solution that we were willing to, a tool, a technology we were willing to apply with optimal ethics for the survival of our species and every other species and the future of the children. This is a rescue effort, by the way. We're rescuing the future from us. If you heard of the Thai cave situation where they rescued the children that were caught in the cave, 10,000 people organized improvisationally, simultaneously. They worked together. All of those children, as far as I recall, lived. One of the divers died in the process. One died later on. That said, we have the capacity, if we are willing to center ourselves in our hearts and our souls and love each other and love the future and love our own children and love other species enough. And that's ethics. If it doesn't do that, it's words on paper. It's a waste of time and effort. It's spinning our wheels. We need to take action now. So the conversations of the world must align with those future values and in necessary ways. Business must do the same. Education must do the same. Governance systems, nations must do the same. Crowdsourced efforts must do the same. Genders must do the same. Cultures must do the same. We must put our history, our wounding, which we have valued as one of our highest ethics, our wounding, we have valued more highly than generating a healthy future for the world. Our hatred, our fear, our judgments of each other, our mistrust of each other between nations, between organizations, our competitive focuses have been our values and have been our ethics above love. It's got to change now. There's no other way around it. Next slide.
John, were you, I'm getting a message.
I've completed my conversation. There was another slide I was hoping could be presented. If it cannot be presented, that's okay, and it's not a problem.
Just where is it? It's not after
I
this
chatted
one.
to you about it. It's water under the bridge. Don't worry about it. It's the slide that I mentioned at the beginning of my talk with the superordinate goals of renewal, regeneration, reharmonization.
I have that. Would you like me to bring it up still?
If you would, that would be fantastic. And thank you, folks, for we're trying to improvisationally respond to you wonderful folks and offer you a fulfilling information resource. This is our compass. This is our guidance system that AI can empower and amplify and magnify in this world. It's very simple. Prioritizing reharmonization of humanity with nature in every possible way. Renewal, conservation, rebalancing, and regeneration of the ecosystems. Sustainability, resilience, and adaptation, and generation of what are called, in air quotes, solutions. Technologies and algorithms, or an algorithm is just a way to make something happen in the world, by the way. It's not some high-tech concept. Cutting down a tree and burning the wood to cook your food is an algorithm. So if we don't unify, align, mobilize, educate, equally include, and balance the empowerment of every person, every gender, every race, every culture, every nation, if we don't synchronize the global reorganization and transformational process, we don't operate from a new set of superordinate values and generate our priorities based upon those values and apply resources in an evolving way in alignment with all of that, then we don't apply the transformational capacities, co-creative capacities of our species optimally. AI can make all of this happen. It can make the evolution of human rights on this planet manifest if we apply that tool of AI that way. That's the standard of ethics for the globe. That's the standard of ethics for humanity, and human rights as equal, only equal to the rights of other species and the planet itself. Otherwise, there will not be balance. There will not be harmony. There will not be true solution. There will not be sustainability. We will not renew the planet. And we will not live in loving harmony with the planet. Sorry for being so long. You're incredibly kind. I hope I have a lot of passion about this, and you've been very, very patient with me. Thank you.
Thank you, John. A lot of important information that can be hard to digest and is very good to hear. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Well, I'm sure there's lots of thank you for commenting in the chat, and I know it's really sparks a lot of emotions and ideas. So thanks for sharing, and look forward to hearing more from you in the discussion. And for now, I'm going to introduce Howard. Let me get your introduction slide. So we will now hear from Howard Martin. Thank you for being here. Howard is one of the original leaders who helped Dr. Childre found HeartMath. In 1999, he co-authored the HeartMath solution published by Harper San Francisco, and he has been with HeartMath's worldwide training and consulting team since its inception in 1991. In 2016, he co-authored Heart Intelligence, Connecting with the Intuitive Guidance of the Heart, which charted on Amazon at #1 in 3 categories. And in 2019, he produced the HeartMath Experience, a cinematic learning experience that has been featured in film festivals found on Gaia and Amazon Video, Apple TV, and more. During his career with HeartMath, he has been instrumental in business development and in delivering HeartMath's practical yet dynamic programs to thousands of participants worldwide. Because of his universal appeal, he has conducted training programs and keynote presentations in Fortune 100 companies, government agencies, all 4 branches of the US military, school systems, ecumenical organizations, and through publicly promoted events in over 50 cities and 4 continents. In 2008, he played a key role in launching the Global Coherence Initiative and serves as a steering committee member for this science-based project created to unite millions of people in heart-focused care and intention to shift global consciousness. Howard is a key HeartMath spokesperson, conducting approximately 50 media interviews annually. He speaks internationally on developing new intelligence needed to navigate life during challenging times. He is featured in many current documentary movies, including The Power of the Heart, The Truth, and The Living Matrix. I now welcome Howard to the stage to share his presentation, Refining the Consciousness Climate. Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. It's so wonderful to be with all of you today, people from all around the world, and I'm honored to be able to share the platform with people like Cindy and John. They're amazing people doing amazing work. Let me begin by saying that I am no expert on climate change. What I am is just a little man that spent his life trying to learn to listen to and follow his heart and unfold this magnificent intelligence that we have, which at HeartMath we call heart intelligence. And when I was thinking about today, I thought about, well, what would I say? What is it that I do, and why can I make a contribution to this? And what came to me is that the essence of what I attempt to do is to reduce human suffering in all the myriad of forms in which it manifests. And certainly the suffering that's taking place for people today as a result of the climate change issues that we have. So let me begin by saying that the crisis that we face today in terms of climate change begins in a crisis of consciousness. You see, we all live in this vast field of information, infinite field of information that's generically called consciousness. We draw from that field through the thoughts and feelings we are choosing to have. We interpret that through the 5 senses, and then we turn it into what we call reality. In addition to that, we also contribute to the field. The field of consciousness is an interactive process with us. We're contributing to it, we're drawing from it, we're turning that into what we call our reality. Many of the great initiatives that are taking place today, the new thinking, the new understandings, the systems that are being put into place, the work that World System Solutions is doing, all of that are examples of a change occurring in consciousness. Because the field of consciousness is changing right now. It's morphing, it's accelerating. The information available to us is increasing all the time. It becomes a matter of what we choose to access from it and what we turn it into in manifestation. Without accessing a higher vibration in the field of consciousness, many of the great initiatives that are already in place are going to have a difficult time manifesting. So my work and my contribution to this would be, how do we help morph and change the field of consciousness in humanity? All the way back in 1999, when I did co-author that book, The HeartMath Solution with Doc Schuldry, in the last chapters of that book, we talked about the consciousness climate, which is the general field of consciousness that we're in that's being generated by the 8+ billion people in the world who all have thoughts and feelings, who are all contributing to a field of consciousness that we are all in and we are all drawing from. So I think the awareness that we need and the impetus to implement, the desire to make the sacrifices we need to make to create a better world and a better climate and a better existence for all, accessing a different set of information, and then having the heart's desire to implement that information in meaningful ways. The way we do that is not through intellect. It's not through thinking our way through it. It's really a process of activating the heart. You know, heart has been looked at, well, let me just say this, there's two hearts. There's the physical heart, but there's also this energetic heart that we have. And within that, there are the qualities of the heart, which would be more love, care, compassion, kindness, understanding, non-judgment, those kind of qualities that we have within us. Bringing those qualities to the forefront of our actions is an important part of solving the climate change problem. Now, that's a difficult challenge for many people, because for a lot of folks in the world today, they're just trying to survive. There are billions of people on the planet that are just trying to find enough to eat. They're trying to get enough in their life not to die. They don't have the luxury of really focusing on something like how to increase their consciousness. And then within, you know, other parts of society, people who do have that ability are faced with so many stressors today. The stress, the anxiety, the uncertainty, all of those things that are happening in people is just blocking them off for something magnificent that's there for them. How do we help them? Again, it goes back to, how do we bring forth more of this magnificent, beautiful intelligence we all have inside? An intelligence that we were born with. Intelligence is part of us and part of our core being, our true authentic self. It's an intelligence that can, does, and has lifted us beyond our problems, even in the midst of chaos and confusion. And it is called heart. And heart is not just sentiment. It's not just soft. It's not weak. It's a powerful intelligence, a high-speed, intuitive intelligence that is the core, again, of who we are, our true authentic self. So getting more of that heart intelligence in play within people can help them raise their own vibration, to access the consciousness field in a different way, and to begin to do things and take actions differently that will affect the world and affect their climate change. I want to also point out something as an observer about the climate change movement. It's changed a lot. It's improving. There's some good news in all of this. You know, the views we have on climate change today are very different than 20 years ago. Many people are concerned about this. It's filtered down into governments making changes and declarations. It's filtered down into many actions that have been taken, and there'll be more coming. It isn't, you know, that it hasn't changed. It's hugely different when I observe it from what it was, say, 20 years ago. So the field of consciousness is changing, and the understanding of the need for climate change is to address climate change has certainly increased over time. An organization like World System Solutions probably didn't exist 20 years ago, but it exists today. That's a great example of the positive changes that I see and where we're heading. So I do think that, yes, there are a huge amount of problems and challenges to be dealt with. There are crisis points that we have to look at. But I want to also point out that things are moving in the right direction, that we are getting smarter and wiser as a global species, and that we're going to work this thing out. I'm very hopeful that we will. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road, but ultimately we're going to work this deal out between us and Mother Earth. It's going to happen, and we're on the right track with all of that. Now, there is a secret hidden in plain view of what's needed for that to happen. And it's simply this: we need to learn to get along better. First of all, we need to learn to get along better with ourselves. We need to stop the conflict within ourselves, all the self-judgment, all the doubt, all those I'm not good enough, so all those things. We have to begin to resolve some of the conflicts within ourselves and learn to get along better with ourselves. We need to get along better with each other. We're living in a world today of extreme polarization, biases, judgments, us against them mentality, different views that are not being accepted, inclusion that's not there, tremendous amount of judgment that's going on between people all around the planet. And we have to learn to reduce that. We have to learn to get along better. It's been talked about already by John and Cindy about this. They've alluded to this, the cooperation that's needed. Well, what does that mean? How do we cooperate? We've got to reduce the separation and the judgment between people. That's one of the very core key things that's going to help the climate change movement accelerate. It's going to help us work this thing out. As we begin to work things out with each other, we can begin to work it out with the world. I also think we have to begin to change the paradigm that somehow or another we're in a battle with the earth, that the earth is out to get us, that there's this battle going on between us and ecology, we are destroying ecology, and ecology is lashing out with storms and all these different paradigms of thinking that I see so prevalent today. We got to get rid of some of that. We got to learn to get along with the earth. We got to learn to make this thing feel harmonious with each other. Now, there's one thing, another secret hidden in plain view that can help us with that. Actually, not only help, it's essential. In order to learn to get along with each other and with ourselves, we have to begin to demonstrate and activate more of the qualities of love. It's been talked about, written about thousands of years in every form you can imagine, but love is the answer to the whole thing. Love is a little small word with a lot of meaning. It can be, for some people, something you avoid because it will hurt you. For others, it's the unifying force that created the entire universe, and there's a myriad of other understandings about what love is in between. We are just beginning to understand what love really is. And it's through the power of activation of love, the qualities of love, that we are going to change the consciousness field, draw in more of the information that we need to find the solutions to the climate change issues, and to have the power and the impetus to innovate and to bring that into manifestation. It is through love that we will do that. Love, again, takes on many different forms, and there are a few ways I'll share right now that I think we can increase the power of love. For one, we need to learn to maintain the vibration of our higher dignity, the dignity that we truly have inside. There's been a drop in the dignity vibration in our world today. And you see that through so many of the things that we're observing, the aberrant behaviors of all different kinds that we're observing right now, from a lack of a certain pristine heart quality, which is the higher dignity we have as human beings. So maintaining our own vibration of our higher dignity and feeding that into the field is certainly key. There are many ways in which we can demonstrate love, just through how we walk in the world. It doesn't have to be we hug and kiss everybody all the time. It's through kindness, the kindness that we show, the care that we have for others, the compassion that we offer people when they're going through a tough time, rather than the judgment. There are so many different ways in just demonstrating love in a casual way. What's going on there? I think that an exercise that I encourage anyone to do is to consciously radiate softly a feeling of love in everything that you do. When you wake up in the morning, just softly radiate that feeling of love. As you go into your day, continue to do that. As the day gets busy, stop, pause, remember that, begin to put that love out a little bit more. Just a general feeling of love. It doesn't have to be felt like a big blast of love or something. It's a soft, gentle radiation that sort of guides and directs conversation, thoughts, feelings, interactions with others, a lot of different things. That's another thing you can do. I would suggest that a group like this, people have their own spiritual practices. There's people here who probably do a lot of things like meditation. And those meditations generate that feeling of love into the consciousness field, generate it to the earth itself. That's another thing we can all do. But most importantly, I would say it's about demonstrating the qualities of self-compassion to begin with. People need to learn to be kinder to themselves. They need to be more compassionate to themselves. Then we all need to recognize that we're good people doing the very best we can in a quickly changing and often challenging world. And when times get tough and when we don't feel that we're doing well enough, when we begin to go into that self-judgment that I talked about earlier, to take that pause and give ourselves the gift that we deserve to have, which is the gift of making contact with our own heart and feeling the compassion that it has to offer. And as we do those simple things in our life, we are contributing to that field of consciousness that we're all drawing from. We are contributing to improving the consciousness climate. And as we do, that will filter down into the thoughts and feelings of other people. There's a lot I could talk about this morning that relates to that, that begins to show that what I just said is not just philosophical. HeartMath is an organization that we base everything that we do on scientific research. And we're doing some really cool things right now, some really cool scientific research. In my little bio, a long bio, by the way, you know, that when people read that bio, it makes me feel tired, you know, like really doing all that, you know. I decided that maybe in the future we'll just shorten the bio and make it feel a little better. But one of the things you was alluded to is the Global Coherence Initiative. Let me briefly explain what that is, and it does relate to climate change. The Earth produces energetic fields. You can think about them as Earth ecology. Those energetic fields are the geomagnetic field and the ionosphere. They surround the Earth as a protective layer. They protect us from incoming space weather, solar radiation, solar winds, cosmic rays, all of that. Without those fields around planet Earth, nothing looks the same. There's no real life here without those fields. And so they're essential to us. A lot of science has been done, and we already know that changes occur constantly in those fields. And as the fields change, it impacts human health and behavior. Well known, well documented. At HeartMath, we're doing research on that, on the fields themselves, on the effects that the fields have on us, but we're also testing a hypothesis that we, the human race, is impacting the geomagnetic field and the ionosphere through the thoughts and the feelings that we're having. It's a hypothesis. To do that, we've placed sensors around the world. We have a bunch of them. We don't need but so many, but we've got 6 or 8 of them strategically located. Very sensitive devices that are monitoring constantly changes occurring in those fields. We're watching as the fields change. We're also doing research correlating changes in the fields with human health and behavior that I mentioned earlier. We are seeing that the effects that are occurring in the fields as they relate to us are happening simultaneously in people all around the world. Now, the point of that, and I could go deeper into it, but it just gave you an overview, basic overview of it. The point of that is to say this: we are all interconnected. We're all in this together. We're all in the same field of consciousness. We're all on the same earth. We're all being influenced in very similar ways by the earth itself and by the fields produced by the earth. And we need to accept that. We need to accept that and honor that. And that begins to reduce some of that separation and those judgments and those biases and that polarization that we see in the world today. As we begin to reduce more of that, people will want to cooperate more. New solutions to climate change problems will begin to emerge. The desire to implement those changes will increase dramatically, and it will happen quicker than we think. So there's a tipping point in the problems we see in climate change. There's also a tipping point in addressing them. we're closing in closely on both. And as I said, I am excited and I'm optimistic. I see the problems. I'm concerned about the problems. I have compassion for the people that are more directly being affected by the problems of climate change. And at the same time, I know we have it within us to deal with it. I know we have it in us to make the changes that we need to make as we move forward. And I think we're going to do it. And I'm excited to say that we're on the right track and that it's people like you who are doing this hard work. I honor you for that. It's people like you and others like you around the world that are going to make the difference. And I want to honor you and support you in that process. And that's pretty much what I have to say here on this early morning in Northern California. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Howard. That was so uplifting. Appreciate that so much. I have a little share about Howard's info. If you want to learn more, which I'm sure there's a lot to learn, you can visit the websites heartmath.com or heartmath.org. You can connect with the Facebook page, the Instagram page, and their YouTube channel. And Julie, I think, will be putting those links in the chat for you. All right, now for the more dynamic part. I just want to take a little break and invite you, if you're open to it, no pressure, to turn on your camera and just take a deep breath with everyone and look around the room and just acknowledge who's here and acknowledge yourself for being here, and just, yeah, let those words that Howard just said reverberate in your system, that we're all in this together and we can do this. We're going to get through it, and we're on the precipice of great change. And yeah, so good to see your faces and your smiles. All right. Now, thank you for doing that with me. We will introduce the question and answer portion. I'm just going to share a little bit about how this is going to go. I'm going to kick off with a question for all three of the speakers, and each time a question goes to all three, they have 3 minutes each to answer. And then if there's any kind of follow-up question, then they'll have 2 minutes each to respond again. And you're welcome to ask a question directly to one of the speakers, or you can ask the same question to all three of them. So just keep that in mind for when it's your turn. So I'm just gonna bring in the first question, which I'd love to ask to everyone, or to Howard, John, and Cindy. And the question is, if you, I think I need to read it. Based on what you've heard today, how do you see yourself integrating the topics that the other two speakers have shared? And what collaborative opportunities do you see after arriving at the understandings they're offering? Feel free to just raise your hand if you want to go first. It's open.
Tracy, is that for us, for the speakers?
Yes, yeah. So Howard or Cindy or John, you're welcome to answer that first. I don't want to pick anyone out.
Right. If you would be the chooser of who
Sure.
speaks, it will make things move along.
Okay, I'll ask Cindy. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Tracy, and thank you so much to Howard and John for their incredibly wise and powerful words, and for all the brilliant contributions and comments in the chat. I really appreciate all of those, and I hope I'll be able to respond to the ones directly to me. I mean, I think, yes, absolutely. I've had the great good fortune to meet John and Howard before. I really think the evolution of consciousness, the crisis of spirit, is the absolute core of how we've got here. There's lots of reasons for that, which I won't go into in the interest of time. So I think it is, I feel that so acutely in my own work. I do have my own spiritual practice. What I'm actually working on at the moment, I'm a yogi, is integrating that more with the work that I do with adults. In the work that I do with children, we already have that mindfulness piece. So anything that we design is also design. It's not just what you know, it's how you learn to apply it. So today is a complete reinforcement of the importance of doing that. And I think that's, we still live in a world. I had an alarming conversation with a gentleman the other day. He still used that dreadful phrase where we leave our hearts and minds at the door. And I really thought that had gone out, with the 80s or the 90s. I can't remember when that got used a lot. But we do still live in the world where people feel that they need to do that. And there's this schism between what we're paid to do and what we believe. And I think in healing that schism, we can actually, unify ourselves, show up with our whole selves, where we then make the ethical values decisions based on the ethics that John was talking about. But at the moment, our industrialized world encourages us to leave the heart and the ethics out of the decisions, only as much as up to the point that it's regulatory. If things are regulated, then we have to operate within those boundaries. But if it isn't, then we can get away with as much unethical behavior as possible, which wounds the spirit, really. I think people know when they've made a decision that maybe benefited them or the company they work for in the short term, but it hurt themselves and it hurt Earth. So I think that the more we can bring our heart and acknowledge this need for an evolution of consciousness to create the space and the means to be mindful, the more we can actually, the quicker we can heal and find this way forward. So yeah, critical to integrate those pieces into my work.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to ask Howard the same question. Based on what you have heard today, how do you see yourself integrating the topics of the other two speakers into your work, and what collaborative opportunities do you see after arriving at the understandings they're offering?
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah. I mean, someone like Cindy and all the work that she's doing, I mean, her resume is amazing, right? And there's got to be ways in which collaboration between us could benefit, I think, other people. And when I think about what John was saying about ethics, so ethics is a great example of what I'm talking about, that lack of dignity, that drop in dignity. The ethics would be a result of that. And so I think that, looking at infusing, if we think about education of people on climate change, which has been talked about by John and Cindy, the education about the climate change problem is one thing, and education on things that people can do as solutions to help it are probably another part of that. But what about, including something in the educational process that would help people manage their lives better? Help people overcome their own personal challenges and the stressors that they face today, making a more, let's say, direct positioning around the solutions to climate change, being somewhat how we deal with our own lives, right? It would have to be simple, have to be something that doesn't feel spiritual or religious or anything like that, but just simple practical tools and things that people can do to make their lives a little easier and give them the ability to have the extra energy and extra consciousness they need to participate in the climate change solutions. I think that would be good. So ethics, I think, is an area that there's collaboration in around in maybe helping to improve the ethics a little bit. That'd be one area that I see from what I heard this morning that resonates. I think the AI questions are interesting as well. I mean, AI is becoming a very powerful tool, and how we use it is going to have a lot to do with how the world functions, right? Because it isn't going to go away. It's like it's on the increase. It's how do we guide it? How do we guide the process of it? And it comes back again to consciousness. Anytime there's new innovations like that, consciousness is going to take it and run with it and do things with it that probably we don't agree with, right? Look at what happened with the internet. John mentioned AI is already influencing people. Look at the social media and how, the programming that's happening to us and to younger people and all that through social media. That's a byproduct of the consciousness applying itself to a technology that could be used for a lot of things. And the same was going to be true with AI. So looking at AI from that lens of view, the amazing tool that it is already and that it's going to become, and how do we shape it and guide it? I think that's another area of interest for me, and an interesting collaboration that would be probably something I would enjoy, that could probably be productive.
Awesome. Thank you very much. John, can you please respond to the same question? Would you like us to repeat it?
No, I've got it, and thank you. So right now, humanity doesn't have a transformational guidance system to move us into health, global health of the entire ecosystem and humanity and the all other species. We lack that transformational guidance and the system that is evolutionary in nature. We lack a capacity to aggregate all of the understandings and wisdom and kindness, care, and love to generate such a guidance system that will generate then a synchronous, murmurative, transformational effect on the planet that will then empower everyone co-creatively to solve the climate crisis. So that said, everything that Cindy has said and everything that Martin has said, I completely agree with every word. The question is, and if the question is, how will and how will we as an organization integrate and synthesize these perspectives? We're designing our technology to do that in order to benefit the world, because without amplification of these understandings that are being brought here very clearly and very eloquently by Howard and Cindy, without adequate amplification to generate coherent resonance, high enough consciousness, love infused, love defined and generated and fueled, conscious, wise, discerning decision making and understanding, we won't have a guidance system for this transformation. We won't have a navigation system for this transformation that's optimal. We'll get there one way or another. There's no question. The question is, how much pain can we reduce? How many species can we retain? How healthy can we keep the ecosystem as we do so? How gracefully and lovingly can we curate the futures of our children? How can we offer them understanding, wisdom, kindness, care, and conscious understanding necessary to guide their own lives and their children? So I feel that this transdisciplinary synthesis between all three of our efforts, Howard, Cindy, and myself, as well as the WSS, the Phoenix platform, which is a platform for synthesis and integration, just as EmpowerED is a synthesis process of all of our best efforts. Putting all the pieces of the puzzle together is how we intend to move forward together collaboratively.
Awesome. Thank you. If any of you want to have extra to say on that, you can have 2 minutes. And if not, we can go into a question from someone else. And I see Karen Beer raised his hand, and I also have a question from earlier from Daniel. So we'll do Karen Beer and then Joy, and then we'll do Daniel's question. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. I just wanted to ask John first, even Howard mentioned that we went through a similar, when technology came up, when the internet came up, we had a lot of hopes for the internet. But we've seen that it's not met our expectations or the best of our intentions. And how do we ensure that that doesn't happen with AI and as the new tool that's out there now and has that same potential?
Thank you. That is an absolutely vital question. The concept of grounding our wisdom in every practical day-to-day decision that we make. we become ungrounded. We remain in the habits and the history of how we made prior decisions to our detriment. We're unconscious that we're doing that. This unconsciousness must be resolved. This habitual tendency to continue to do the same thing tomorrow that we did yesterday and today, must change. The processes by which we educate are vitally important, and that education cannot be an intellectual process, nor merely just a heartfelt and emotional process. It must be intentionally, consciously, methodically, and thoroughly grounded into every single decision of how we make our food, how we create our food, how we work in every moment, what we work for. And in regard to AI specifically, without a global commons approach and one that's balanced, whether you call it yin and yang or age groups or genders or as in the coders, in the coding teams, fully transparent, fully open to everyone in the world and inclusively applied and created and implemented and curated throughout its evolutionary life cycle for the next 100 years, perhaps, we probably won't be able to. Right now, every nation has its own ethical model, and those ethical models are not being applied in business. If we don't ground this understanding in business and require it in every business in the world, business will continue to wag the dog. The judicial systems and governance systems cannot keep up with the speed of technology. So right now, there is no way to guarantee that, and we must create one and implement it. We're trying to do so on the Phoenix platform. We want to offer that to the United Nations. That is our offering. Whatever they choose to do, we would be open to. And the question is vitally important. We are working against the momentum of history. The history of our tribal tendencies as collectives, as communities. And if we are not willing to meet our history with consciousness and transcend its influence moment by moment in every dimension of life and choose from love, kindness, care, and the superordinate goals that we suggested, then we will go off course constantly. The navigation system will tell us that we're going to heaven and take us off a cliff potentially. So valid, absolutely necessary question. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I just wanted to follow that up as well with so I see the shaping of AI and the internet is shaped by the users. So the importance of ensuring that the users shape it based on the ethics that we're taught, not in business but at home. And we carry that forward. I think that's what's really important.
Yeah. I think your question was really cool and very valid. I don't think any of us have the answer to it. I think we don't even understand AI yet, and AI is going to continue to evolve faster than we can understand it, right? So and it's already being misused. So your question, I think, was how do we prevent it from being misused? Whoops, too late. It's like it's already happening. However, it's also going to be a very powerful, important part of our life. And I think part of the way we have to look at it is that, if it is misused in one context, maybe there's ways to use it better in another and continue to offset that, because there's some really interesting things, good things happening with AI. I don't think AI is a bad thing at all. I think it's going to make life easier as it begins to be, to use in different ways, and already is. Certainly here at HeartMath, we use, basic AI stuff in our business all the time now, and it's helping. It's changing things. It's making us better. It's saving us time and energy. There's a lot of cool things about it. I didn't have any PowerPoint this morning. I didn't really realize I needed one, but I'm creating images now. All my images in my PowerPoints, and I'll be honest with you, they are amazing looking images. I'm creating all of them now with myself with AI. By learning how to use an AI image generation program. So it's art, and I'm creating new art with this, and I'm incorporating that into my visual elements in my presentations. I think that's really fun to do that. It's creating new art, new beauty in the world. And, there's hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people that are doing that now. So there's some upside to it. So I don't think we understand AI yet. Certainly, it's going to continue to outrun us. Yes, we have to accept that it's going to be misused. That's a crisis in consciousness, and I think that we offset that with using it in ways that that are better, the ways that help people more. And I think ultimately there'll be people that use AI a lot more than I do, making pictures that turn it into something that does make life better for folks along the way. At the same time, we got to deal with the other challenges that of misuse, and they're going to be significant.
Thank you, Howard. Cindy, do you have any comments on this subject?
Thanks, Karen Beer. I think it's pretty much been covered. I think it's the intention of the AI that, I think we have to be really vigilant. The genie is out the bottle, but I think we have to do everything that we can to, to put in place the processes that will enable AI, because I think AI is as good as the intention behind it, as you said yourself, Karen Beer, and the people and how it's used. So it really is a matter of it is out there. It's kind of like the Wild West, but if there is some processes in place to try to put the right kind of ethics behind it, then at least we have those standards to refer to. And I think it's very important that they're there, because it gives us an instrument to try to keep it tracking in the right direction, as opposed to just the free-for-all that it is at present. Yeah. So
let me offer one example of something too, Cindy. It's interesting. There was a video program that came out this year, the ChatGPT, the same company created, of creating videos. I can't remember the name of it right now, but they released it and they put their demos out there, and the videos were absolutely astounding and amazing. It was different than the AI generated videos that we have so far. It was another generation of it, way past the others. Right. And they could create anything they wanted, and it looked like cinematic quality stuff, right? And guess what? They haven't released that to the public yet. And here's why. They realized it was so powerful that videos that look completely 100% real could be created about anything. And think about how that could influence so much that they stopped it, and they pulled it back, and they haven't released it yet because they realized that it needed management and governance, that they had to put guardrails around it because of what it could do. And so they slowed the whole thing down. So that's an example of actions being taken, recognizing, wait a minute, look at how powerful this tool is. We can't have this in the world yet because it will be misused in ways that are so detrimental to other people. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, Howard, and it is a shame that Christine wasn't here, because she works for IBM, and I have to be honest, I'm deeply skeptical sometimes or a lot of the time, of the intentions of large corporates. But having that conversation that we had with her was so reassuring, that IBM is taking the ethics of AI incredibly seriously. So it's so good to see that force is in the world and is there to counter the misuse that we are going to see too. Yeah, so lots of reasons to be encouraged.
Thank you for illuminating us on this very important topic. I'm just gonna move on to another question because we have some waiting. Joy, you were next.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, and I am really thrilled with your lineup today, Tracy and John. You actually hit the hard spot of all three major conflicted elements in putting together this platform, and I'm looking forward to having this recording. If we can forward this out to our entire platform of all of our alliances, it would be really excellent. So as soon as possible, that would be incredible. I want to say, Cindy, that your presentation on the indigenous issues and on Wetiko and what I'm now calling, I did an interview with Paul Levy about Wetiko as it relates to civic violence, because we actually have what I believe is civic and economic Wetiko that is destroying society from the inside out because of the emotional intelligence issue, which is what we've created emotional conflicts in our intelligence field because of the HeartMath work, because we are programmed to be born to love naturally. That is our normal set point. And when we bully that and destroy it and tear it apart, we create self-loathing, which produces what John is then talking about. So all three of you guys combined together are an amazing that's Paul Levy Kurt is what I'm talking about. Paul Majid did the historical work on the doctrine of discovery. So there's some amazing things that we can bring together. Now, the reason I'm saying all that is because I see an opportunity, and I've been working for the last 50 years to understand why it is that humans kill each other in civilized society when we love each other in private rural farming communities, which is where I grew up. Like, what is the problem? And over the last 15 years, I've been studying mass incarceration, and I won't talk too long here for a second, but I've been studying the work of mass incarceration, mass indoctrination, and mass genocide as a pattern. And I've just finished my research and come up with a 9-step, it's a 9 rhythms pattern of intentional destruction or intentional regeneration. And we're working on it. But the reason I bring it up is because I think we have an opportunity now, for the first time in my history, at least, to be able to have combined conversations that are focused on pivoting us from degenerative behavior to regenerative behavior by talking about what you guys have right there in the center. So I just posted notes to all three of you that I'd like to interview you individually on the I Change Justice podcast, talking about this. And I would also like to offer to do a panel discussion and lead some conversations with John here at this institute, so that we can re-educate our minds using trauma-informed conversations, so that we don't re-trigger negativity and we trigger the access to move into the positivity, which is why I've been posting some stuff inside. So I just want to say thank you all very much. This is the best launch of this conversation that I've seen in a very long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy, for your comments. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Joy, for your comments, which I appreciate very much as well as that incredible work that you're doing. I'd love to speak to you more. As I mentioned earlier, I'm writing a book on colonization and climate change, which really does go into that whole how our minds were shaped to really inflict, that genocidal horror, and then call that civilization. There is such a schism there that I won't go into at length here, but I'd really love to talk to you about that more, because it right in the heart of the Enlightenment, you have that schism, and I think it's really profound. And in healing that, we may find, we can heal the trauma that is collective. So I'd love to.
You might put the word heart in the middle of your title if your title hasn't already been published anywhere. It's healing the heart between whatever those two words you word is, to add Howard's wisdom, because it's the heart of the colonization problem, which is what we've got to get to, the inner heart. That's just a thought.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be right back. I need to step away for just a minute, but I shall return.
Thank you, Howard. Make sure you come back. Hey.
Love that.
All right.
I just wanted to say thank you, Joy. I appreciate the invitation, and likely we will take you up on it in the near future. Again, the amplification of these understandings is vitally necessary, and I'm being very candid. I apologize. The current clogged airwaves of the world, full of narratives, which are competing narratives and are not aligned narratives, synthesized, wholesome, healthy, and holistic in their approach, is making it challenging. It's like a traffic jam that's in the way of our collective, collaborative effort to heal the world and ourselves as a species. and our relationship with the world. So how we get past that traffic jam and create an open collective space, I feel is a necessary part of the conversation, so that love can be amplified and become the way, the only way, the chosen way.
That's why I invited specifically, John. That's why we have to move from the story trapping to the new level of storytelling, which is one of the reasons, Cindy, that I invited the idea of adding the word heart somewhere in your title, just to build the bridges from the past hurts to the new possibility as the storytelling piece, maybe.
Yeah, I know. I certainly bear that in mind, Joy. I'd love to talk to you more. I'm writing my that book. It's called Strange Fruit. Actually, it's written as a 12-bar blues because I'm using musical forms to kind of try to hold the story, and there's a reason for that, which again I'd love to share, but I probably
love
don't
that.
have the time. But I'm maybe in the subtitle there's a place for heart, because I think it is incredibly important. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. I love it. So I know John and Carrie, you both have your hand up, and I thank you for your patience. I just want to bring in Daniel's question that he asked while Cindy was speaking. He says, "Hi, Cindy. Thank you for your fascinating insight." I'm going to post this in the chat. What are your thoughts on the IB, MYP, PYP framework within the international schooling system? I've just moved to a full IB school here in Paris, and the IB approach definitely places a focus on problem solving, collaboration, compassion, innovation. I'm on a big learning curve, but positive about what and how we're supporting learning for young people. We are a private, middle, upper class private school.
Yeah, hi Daniel. Thanks very much for that question. I really wish you all the best with that journey. For anybody, the IB is the International Baccalaureate, and the MYP is the middle years program. The PYP is, I can't remember which year's program that is, but they're programs within the IB cycle. I think the IB is very good, Daniel. You know, they've been around for quite some time, and they are trying to bring, you know, they have been trying to move that. They obviously, as you will be finding out, they operate around a principle called global citizenship. So where you're actually raising human beings to be, you know, good citizens of planet Earth. So I definitely think that that's a much stronger program, and it's, you know, normally in independent schools, because that's where it can be taken up within government curriculums. They're much less willing to embrace the IB for all sorts of reasons. The weaknesses of the IB program, though, I won't criticize it much at all, because I definitely think it's a step in the right direction, you know, in a system that doesn't have enormous amounts of space for this amounts of thinking. You know, I've a good friend who works in the IB, you know, the global citizenship, it's not, it's a little bit fuzzy, rather than really kind of shifting the emphasis to what we would call earth-led education and this ecocentric worldview. It's kind of, a lot of these programs had to sort of Trojan horse themselves in, and global citizenship is a lot more palatable to people to understand than a systemic shift where you're actually trying to teach children in quite a different you know, because where the IB becomes a little bit unstuck, the primary years are great, but when you get into the secondary years, you still find yourself, and my daughter went to an IB school as well, you still find yourself in that funnel where you have to pass those really performative exams in order to take up your place in this system. So it's still kind of a bit squashed by that system. It becomes quite heavy and pressured and you know, industrialized in a way, but when you get to the higher years. But you know, it's something that's out there, and it's part of it is making steps to make change in the right direction. So I would generally say that I really support the IB, and, you know, people like you taking up as teachers, because the teachers have a lot of control in IB as well. So some of the teachers, I've belonged to a group of IB teachers actually who are really trying to push the to use the leverage they have to take this much further. So I think somebody like you in there is really well placed to do that. No pressure. I hope that's helpful, Daniel.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. Yeah, it all makes sense. I mean, I've been working in education now for 17 years, and yeah, it's kind of when you've not taught PYP or IB, like I'm a primary years program teacher, so I'm working in kind of with 9-10-year-olds in grade 4. And when you've been in education for a long time and seen a few different systems, this one very much seems like a breath of fresh air with regards to kind of the values that it holds, like you mentioned. And I think that we're in quite a fortunate position as well, being in our school in Paris, because of the nature of the school, we're downtown, so we don't have a huge amount of facilities. So, you know, our value system revolves around educating the students, yes, with the IB value system, but also educating for complexity. So we're truly trying to help the kids understand that the world is an extremely complex place, and therefore we need to educate you in a way that will allow you to succeed once you are able to fully, you know, move out into that world of your own accord. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited to see where it goes, and the school's pretty open to opportunities within this field. So it will be great to kind of keep people updated of what goes on at the school, because I've worked quite a lot with the environmental focus of different schools in my international career, and this is one which I'm really excited about, seeing whether or not the leadership of the school and the board of trustees will really kind of take some things that I might suggest on board and really give the kids a lot of agency. We have a big pillar at the school, which is student agency, you know, giving them sharing their voice and really allowing them to take control of situations and you know, have their voice heard within the school and the wider community. So yeah, it looks like it's on a good path.
Yeah, definitely, I'd say, Daniel. And as you can see, you know, you yourself, you've got that power to your own agency will transform that. And I think IB teachers, there's a really great group kind of working on, as I say, working on how they can use the leverage that they have. So it's the more, you know, the more you take in there and the more you're determined to use it, the more that you will drive the change at a deeper level. So it sounds like you're in somebody like, you know, you are in a really, really good place to use that. I can see why you're excited, and I hope it goes brilliantly for you, and look forward to hearing about it.
Thanks very much. Thank you. And thank you to everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights.
There's a lot of awesome comments in the chat regarding this as well. And Carrie, what is your question?
Hey there, thank you. I've really appreciated the presentation so far. I think they're very complementary in the holistic approach of how we can choose to look at the world that we are living and stepping into today, and that world that we are creating together. I guess I just have interest in how we might be able to more uniformly and systemically impact and influence from these sustainable perspectives of multi-generational thinking, the existing educational systems and the curricula that our young folk are learning from. We heard the challenges of a lot of these concepts not being in the things that they're learning whatsoever. And maybe they are a little bit, but how do we prepare our students for the world of today and tomorrow, away from the old destructive economic paradigm? And a couple things that quickly came to mind were around what sort of toolkits can our students have? How can the type of thinking that each of you are sharing be infused into these educational systems and these AI systems? How can increased evaluation skills for the media that we're all getting blasted with be present in students' learning? And how can we repeatedly ask ourselves, what's important to me? What are our values? So that we can make these decisions into our careers and lifestyle choices moving forward that hopefully impact the world in a very positive way. So just with those mindsets in mind, I wonder if anyone has ideas on how these ways of thinking that we've been discussing today can make it into our existing educational system so we can impact more people than those that have the ability to choose and look for things themselves, those that have the wherewithal to go and do that, like those of us in this room right now. But a lot of people aren't going to go do that on their own. So how can we systemically get these ways of thinking into the world?
I'd like to, thanks very much, Kerry, for that. I'd love to respond to that question, but I can see Kurt's got his hand up, so I'd love to hear what you have to say, Kurt. If that's all right, Tracy.
Absolutely. Love
Thank
it.
you. Thank you very much, Cindy. I do appreciate being able to be here with you all and listening to this great collaboratorium. This is where everything changes. And one of the things that I'm surprised at, so many people don't use the kids as the ideas, as the idea generator, as a person who's going to be able to look at the problems that they have facing them, look at what they get to do or can't do, and what is it that you want to do? How is it that you see your life going? What is it that we can do together? We gave kids all kinds of challenges in the physical education program that stretched their ability to be able to do things like create their own games. And we had a cholita. Cholita means little gang-banging girl, a girl that was, fighting and not a person who's a student. And because she joined the group that formulated a game that she would not stop playing, because she was empowered to do these kinds of things. She felt she bought into it. We seldom in our normal education system, because it is top down, it is the colonialization aspect and everything else, most of these forms are, we get to be able to challenge the thinking, because if we think in the same box, oh well, we don't get out of it. And I can say more, and I've put in a lot in the chat, so I'll let you, Cindy, because you're the great communicator, and I just happen to wrap off a little bit.
No, that's great, Kurt, and thanks so much for putting such valuable resources into the chat. I really hope that I will get time to read through them all. I mean, yeah, I think empowering the kids. I mean, I can't see Kelly anymore. It is really hard, I have to say, to do that. And I'm reading a lot of the comments in the chat about the IB. You know, the reason that you can get more into the independent schools is because they're off the government program, but then you do get the problem with elitism, because how do you reach the children that aren't in those schools? I mean, I have to be honest, it's been really hard trying to get Planetary to go, because you're just hitting up against a system that doesn't really want to change. I've spent a lot of time with other people advocating, with the government for this earth-led education, and it's just like smashing your head against a brick wall. And they will, they congratulate themselves. The British government actually had the nerve to say we have the best sustainability program in the world, which meant introducing one exam on natural sciences, no systemic change whatsoever. And it's, then weirdly enough, my book has ended up, one of my books on the Australian national curriculum, which, I didn't really do any thing there, but that's a start. But it is extremely hard. You have to be very resilient and creative. If you're a teacher, then you've already got access to children. I'm really following the Buckminster Fuller principle. Don't argue with the old model, build a new one. So we're building Planetary anyway. We're finding ways to get it to children, but trying to be creative and resilient. And our model is whatever we can get in that somebody can afford to pay for, we'll find a way to get it to children that aren't able to pay for it, so that we can try to balance out that. But yeah, it's much slower than I do get really tired I get told two things which I really get sick of, to be honest. One is I'm really amazing, but people, it's, you know, it's all right for you to be amazing and use up all your life energy without any active help. You know, amazing doesn't actually help me to help children to be amazing. So people are very quick to praise, but I almost find that's a way of them kind of pushing you out the door. You know, you can carry their wishes almost, and you know, congratulating you is a way of actually not doing anything. And real action is what we need now. If you think somebody's doing work that is worth being called amazing, then help to get the work into the wider ecosystem. And the other one is that I'm ahead of my time, which I'm really managed to get that out without choking, because how much time do we have left, you know, for these kind of these ways of thinking that we've all shared, the integration with what World Systems Service is doing. John, Howard, you know, you're so positive and optimistic, Howard, but that's the bit that worries me when I see so many barriers, is how do we get this through in time? And there's no more room for complacency to say, oh, it will kind of eventually happen and, you know, people will catch up with you. That's just not okay anymore. If you see something valuable in what we're doing, then please act and help us to get it out there into the wider world, because we can't do this kind of work alone. And we have to find, you know, we have to use everything that we have for the sake of the children that are coming up, to equip them to be able to handle what's happening. You know, we need, and that's the other thing, courage. Keep people saying hope. Oh, I hope, we have so much hope. But I was listening to a climate journalist whose house got swept away in the storm just now in North Carolina while she was on her way to Climate Action Week. And, you know, she was just distraught because she'd lost everything. She got out with her life. She got out with, you know, all her possessions are gone. She lost some of her neighbors. And she said, we cannot have these stories of false hope anymore. What we need is courage to face what's coming, courage to take the action. And my friend added on to that, and with the courage, we need the competence. And it's those two things that, you know, the stories of people like me and everybody on this call, that everybody's kind of hoping that we're going to do enough work with our own life energy, but people have to have the courage now to step up and work with us and let us develop our own competences and pass that on to the next generation. That's how we get out of this. So I'm not sure if that was a good answer to the question.
As I've been listening, I have a couple of comments about some of that. First of all, yes, we need to learn from the children. It's important. They're more naturally connected to their hearts and to that part of themselves, and their creativity is not being hampered by the programming that society and life puts us through. So there's a lot to be learned there. Also, helping the children is extremely important right now, and has been always, but it's especially important right now. Some of the things that Carrie said about why is this not in our curriculum, different things like how do you deal with social media? I mean, shouldn't that be a course, you know, in today's educational system? But no, it's not. But I think that, you know, we have to look at helping the children in every way we possibly can, because they're going to inherit the earth, and whatever that earth is like is going to have its own set of challenges. At the same time, I think that there's always sort of a little bit of danger in that as well. Is that what I've observed is that we often say, you know, oh, the children they're so much more aware now. They're coming in. They're the hope for the world and all that. We got to recognize that we're the hope for the world. You know, where we stand right now, we can't keep pushing it back a generation, you know, for the change to happen. So I agree with Cindy. The action needs to be taken now. We need to do some things. We need to come together. At HeartMath, we work a lot in education. We have a whole education division in our nonprofit. We have found it extremely difficult for the same reasons that have already been thrown out there. We've seen tremendous change. We've had studies we've done. We've had bipartisan sponsored bills put in to pay for some studies, produce the results, and still not able to implement them, you know, in the school system because of the systems themselves. What we have found, however, is that some of the changes that are occurring are happening at the teacher level, where the teachers are finding creative ways of inserting information in and getting stuff into their programs. So I think there's some optimism. Cindy pointed out my optimism, but I think there's some optimism there, seeing that it is building from the ground up. It's seeding itself in. It's going to take a while for those systems to actually change. They're entrenched. They're difficult to maneuver. There are a lot of factors involved in that. So I think patience is also a key. At the same time, continuation of the impetus to see those changes, relentless impotence around we wanting that to change is also important, but with a spirit of patience underneath it, allowing it to morph and allowing it to come about as it will. The optimism that I do have, I think it's important for us to take everything seriously, so to speak. And I agree that we can't just sit back, that action has to be taken. I also think that, at least for me and my contribution to it, I want to offer a lifting spirit and a more hopeful perspective that can help people see a brighter future. Because then as they begin to see it, then they can believe it. And as they believe it, it begins to bring that belief into manifestation. At the same time, underneath that, the work has to be done. You know, it can't be ignored and it has to be done. But I also want to paint the picture a little bit about what's possible if we do the work, you know. And I think that's where the optimistic spirit that I try to inject. Sometimes I did this morning, it wasn't pre-planned, but my feeling this morning, just speaking from the heart, was to position a little bit more that way.
John?
I thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Howard. As an organization, WSS considers ourselves practical optimists, meaning that we lead with optimism, hope and faith, and love, and kindness and compassion, and hopefully wise, conscious discernment. Simultaneously, we recognize that there's a profound resistance in the world to change. There is a momentum, a continuity of business as usual, and retaining the values at the subconscious levels of humanity that the heart may not always touch, that don't recognizably get engaged in decision making. I spoke with some wonderful people in South Carolina yesterday who were recognizing that the gentrification and the colonization that had occurred in that area had been good for all of the wealthy and had not engaged the local community of Black and brown people in the environment. Those folks were unaware. They literally could not see these people, as human beings equal to themselves, and engage them. There was an obscuration of consciousness that was so profound that they were unable to serve them as themselves, as equals. So the question is, absolutely, I am an optimist. I agree with everything you're saying, Howard. And Cindy, I love what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. The way that we ensure that the resistances of the educational system, governments, decision-making, leadership, that are leaders now, and all the leaders of the future that we call children, and women, or young women, all those leaders of the future, we must offer them the option and the opportunity, as well as a system that supports this imbuing of wisdom, kindness, care, love, consciousness, discernment, and discipline, courage and discipline, to be able to look right into the face of anything that we might find frightening with care, with love and courage, in order to take action today, individually, collectively, internationally. And that's got to occur in every business on the planet. And that's got to occur in every educational institution and every subunit of governmental institutions, as well as the legal and policy and ethical systems, as well as in all of the areas of the world that are developing technological solutions. So this is a holistic approach that we feel, a transdisciplinary, a full synthesis of everything that we're saying today, here and now. Howard, Cindy, WSS, every other EmpowerED presenter that's ever been here, what Joy is saying, it's all got to be integrated, and there must be a path, a process, and a method of that integration that's standardized and offered and supported. It's infrastructure implemented in the world. That infrastructure has not been built. It's a delivery system for consciousness that is based on love, care, kindness, and compassion, and wisdom. If we choose to build that infrastructure and implement it, then everyone gets to work together. The Greenwich Mean Time transformational navigational process and guidance system for change in the world. There are so many voices in the world that are now being squeezed out by the competition of the world They don't get amplified because there's no system of amplification. So like little trees in a forest that are already taking up all the light and nutrients, the little trees don't get nourished, so they don't grow into the big tree, so they don't become the forest. The question is, can we nurture that which is wholesome and healthy enough in us as human beings, collectively, globally, fast enough? It's got to happen in 4 years, by the way. 4 years. That's our, according to science, that's our window. So this is urgency, not fear. This is love in giving voice to. This is optimism. This is possibility. This is co-creative power that we recognize in every human being, no matter their age, gender, race, culture, nationality, it doesn't matter. We need to engage it and support it and honor it and fund it and resource it and technologize it where that's healthily done. Sorry for the long statement.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Joy, do you have a question?
No, I have a comment. I just posted in the link a post to the Civic Cafe conversations where we are having already these conversations about how our local community is planning to turn around our county in under a year. And we have a very deliberate plan to do it. We're working with civic literacy. We're working with Heart Institute type knowledge. We're working with your knowledge, John. And we are working with the Restorative Community Coalition, who has just spent 15 years trying to figure out how in the hell to turn around mass incarceration to make it pass empowerment. We're delivering the work, but we are doing the boots on the ground every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock with our Civic Cafe calls. And I'm inviting you all to just come join us. In the meantime, I can offer you interviews on I Change Justice podcast. I can offer you a new panel discussion of how to pivot from degeneration to regeneration using 5 pivoting tools. So let's, there's a gentleman, Sam Beard, who works with, he invented the Jefferson Awards, which is a political civic change platform that parallels the Nobel Peace Prize. He created it with Jackie Kennedy Onassis. His name is Sam Beard, and he works with Homeland issues, and he's pioneering a youth education program in Africa right now with Kenyan children. And he is a friend who wants to help us get education to the children. And he's using music and a singing platform to do it. So we can get to the children and to the grandparents through the heart, through using music and intentional heartbeats. This is what you know about Howard. Our music and our sound vibrations is what crosses all boundaries of all generations. So we can do this if we just stop talking about how we're going to try to force the intellectual property holders how to do it. You do it by going around them with rhythm and bass and treble and story and narrative and new storytelling. We can do this, and we can do it now. We don't have time to wait 5 years. The Amazon is already dry. And I just learned that. And that is, I was there 10 years ago, and it was full and it was running at full scale. So we don't have time to wait 5 years. We don't have time to help the educators. We just have to make the civic literacy changes to get it done. So I'm done. I'm sorry, but I just had to speak it, John, because we can do this. The AI, digital AI, can kick butt on everything if we simply coordinate our rhythms and our heart and our passion with our voices and engage our hands and our feet in the ground, boots on the ground in real time in every city across this world. And it's not by passing legislation, it's by doing the enthusiasm. So there you go.
And this is what Sam Beard mentioned about when you get spoken or read to or sung so many million words before the age of 3, your brain is wired for success. It's like we birthed our both our boys with water birthing with Igor Tchaikovsky. We open up their learning centers precociously by moving them in certain ways, by bombing them in the water and so on and so forth. and talking to them, singing in the womb and after they got out of the womb and so on. And that allows the whole process of thinking to be able to be not rewired, precociously wired, and we will be much more successful. Then we get the character education into the program, like this parenting book. Then there's all kinds of other good books. This one happens to be an excellent one that I know the person who actually wrote it, Diane Tillman. That the programs in character development reduce violence by 90% within 2 years of implementation at a refugee camp, which are noted for violence. Same thing happened when she went down to Joburg, where my wife is from, Johannesburg. She did it with street people, transient people, and it worked. We can get it out there. I've consulted with SDG Academy of Pakistan for a number of years, about 4 years now. They finally opened up a school of education that uses nature as its model. It's very much like there's a school here in Topanga Canyon in Los Angeles area that has that same model. And they had an incredible success rate now. I mean, it's just amazing what we can do when we just do it here, there, and everywhere. We are the pollinators.
Yes.
We pollinate. What happens? One of my totems is a hummingbird. How far can it travel? What can it do? How fast are its wings? I mean, amazing. We have that same ability. I challenge everybody today, everybody on this group right now, 3 times a day at least, take 3 calm, deep breaths, repeating these 2 phrases. When you breathe in, peace in everything. As you breathe out, everything as peace. What does that do? Peace in everything, everything as peace. It gets into your head. What happens when it gets in there? It gestates. And it also has that law of predominant mental impression. And we can suddenly begin to see it more in our life. And we can see something that actually needs it more. And we can bring it forth because of the gifts we've been given in this life. Just like I've been given all kinds of gifts. I have my PhD is playing happily daily. I don't have a PhD yet. I've keynoted the World Congress in Sports Psychology. I don't even have a degree in psychology. Where did that come from? I seem to be very much like Howard. I mean, where's my degrees? I don't know. I don't care. What matters is what we've been gifted and we can give it. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for sharing. I do have a question for Howard that was posed to me
Sure.
privately. And it was, are we human or are we dancers to a common beat or rhythm?
Are we human or are we dancers?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Well, I think we're human dancers. That's probably what we are, and we are dancing to a common beat. There's a term I use sometimes called finding the rhythm of life. Dancing with the rhythm of life is what I say. And there's always a conscious flow going on that we are either synchronized with or we're not, and that shows up on macro levels and micro levels as we go through life. So learning to find that flow, that intuitive connection to all of that, and learning to make the subtle adjustments that we need to make every moment, every day to continue to be in that flow. And there's one flow that I'm particularly interested in, and it's the flow of that ongoing love I talked about going out. See it as a line, and when we're not in that place, it's like the line got broken, right? And it's like maintaining the continuity of that line, of that flow, of that energy of love. Again, not sweet, sentimental love, but a practical, dynamic type of love that we manifest in our life. And then using the tools that we have, whatever tools they are, when we find that line's broken, to go ahead and put a patch on it, and get that flow going again. And I think that as we do that, we continue to move up the evolutionary cycle and we move at high speed. There's so much opportunity for us right now to learn, to grow, and change. We have a greater opportunity today than we've ever had before, I believe, in the history of humankind. And yes, there are the tremendous amount of problems that are accelerating as well. And I think we have to meet those challenges as best we can by continuing to push that envelope and to learn to dance with the rhythm of life. I think it's important that we do that. I think it's essential, and I think it's the hope for us. I have another commitment. I was committed to this until 10, and I have to go now. But what I'd like to say on the way out is that, I want to thank you all. That's all I want to say is thank you, for who you are and what you've done. Thank you for the sacrifices I'm sure you've made in your life to get to where you are today and to be doing what you're doing. I want to thank you for what you're doing in the world now. If I was to sit down with any of you, I'm sure I'd be amazed at all the wonderful things that you're already contributing to this world. And if I may, I want to put my futuristic intuitional hat on for a second and say, thank you for what you're going to do in the world. Because it is people like you that do represent the hope for this world and for the future of our planet. And I want to honor you for that. And I want to say that I appreciate the opportunity to have been invited to this. I hope there'll be more in the future. And big, big love to each and every one of you. Please take care of yourself and be well.
Thank you so much, Howard. It's been such a pleasure to meet you once again and to share this time with you. I really hope that we'll stay in touch and stay connected.
You too, Cindy. I'll come up next time I'm in London and we'll make sure we do something.
Okay, sounds good.
Take care, everybody. Be well.
Bye,
well.
bye, Howard. Take care.
Thank you, Howard.
I need to go also as well. I'm the same as Howard, so I'm really happy to stay for a few more
Real
minutes.
quickly, this is the peace salute. We see the world as it truly is. It's all love. And we see it and we say, Zoom peace. And we throw the love out to the world. And what does it create? Peace. It's the second highest force, that love. The highest force is actually peace, because love creates peace. So zoom it out to the world, and the kids love it too, of all ages.
Thank you, Cindy, thank you, Kurt. Thank you for being here. And we know you have to go. And if there's any last questions for Cindy, she can answer them. Otherwise, we can say aloha.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure to be here, everybody. And thank you so much for the incredible work that you're doing. And I really, particularly to all of you, and I really appreciate what you're doing. World System Services team, John, Julie, and Tracy, to try to synthesize all of that, because I do think that's where the power lies, in bringing it all together. Joy, thank you so much for your kind invitations. I really look forward to hearing from you. Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
We're gonna stay on. We have some more conversation we can have, and some closing slides. So
I got to go myself, so I'm gonna
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kurt.
Cheers.
There was a question from Karen here about Pulse for John. Trying to find it back here. It was, how do I participate? Do you want to say it, Karen Beer?
Yeah, John had mentioned Pulse that WSS is working on. So how can people participate or contribute towards that? Do you have the collaborative model set up to build that?
Fantastic question. So again, we see education as a multidimensional process, meaning that absolutely there must be education that's offered in a general standardized way that meets necessary global requirements. Simultaneously, there must be tailored, unique individual and or organizational education that's delivered in a real-time way on demand as needed, because things are going to be changing in our world and transforming faster and faster and faster. Simultaneously, we need an educational system that where we can practice what we have learned and apply it and learn from it and recursively feed back into the original information that we received educationally to say, was the education good education? Did it really meet our needs? What did we learn as a process of its application? So this cycle, this constant cycle, we feel is vitally important. And the three components, EmpowerED, SURF, and Pulse, all are that composite model. And there's other dimensions to the educational process beyond those systems that we also know exist in the world and we want to integrate and synthesize. So, in answer to your question, Karen Barr, the Pulse system right now, we have the what might be termed the ingredients in it, the understandings of when, where, how, and why it must be delivered. We understand the AI technology required to deliver it. And that said, it will be optimally infused with the knowledge base of humanity, a giant Wikipedia, if you will, that's simultaneously fed by people's experiences, their on the ground intelligence of this is what's happening in my life. These are our pains and problems. And we would invite collaboration with anybody, any organization, in order to produce that. The AI technology to deliver it exists today. There is coding, there is development, and it's not something brand new. It can be designed, built, and delivered almost immediately at this time, and constantly retailored based upon individual preferences in the world as to I'm on the autistic spectrum, or I'm a young mother of 2 children and I only have 30 minutes a day to learn anything, or I am an at-risk population in this area and absolutely need help on these topics right now. So this real-time feedback system that's holistic, complete, and is aligned with health for the whole world, globally and locally, we feel is necessary. So I don't know if that answered your question. It's probably more information, and I apologize I'm not trying to plug it, I'm trying to describe. So anybody and everybody contact our organization, Tracy or Julie, that would want to collaborate in that process. We've got a design and development team. If you folks would want to be participative in that, please say so. We would invite that. We understand the quality and excellence of all of you and your not just heartfelt, your genius, your soul genius that has so much to offer. Thank you.
Any follow-up questions or comments or new questions? Joy?
Yeah, I do have a question as to how we can collaborate and actually do a sequence. Is it possible for me to do the Joy Talk episodes of these civic cafes as an experiential? Because everything we're doing with the RCC, the Restorative Community Coalition locally, we're actually using, and I built the nine-step phasal platform, but I've got a 5-point pivoting, which we have 5 points to pivot from the degeneration, 5 points to pivot through the generation analysis, and 5 points to pivot to regeneration, which is very layman's based conversation instead of the high level of conversation that you and I tend to have when we get into these high-end tech, literate PhD type people who can listen to what we're talking about and understand your words. The Civic Cafe work that I'm doing with Joy Talk, we're spawning it with teachers. We have a teacher who's working in a college in Texas right now, and she's doing civic engagement with her 30 students. And we've pioneered a way that she can use AI and Cliff Notes and abstracts to accelerate the front end learning for her students coming into the class, how we do the pivoting in the middle, and then what does she ask them to do afterwards? So she's got a direct hands-on application. She's going to be teaching her second series of this. It's at a Catholic school, a Catholic university, in fact. So she's working out what we've been doing for the last 15 years in Whatcom County as we've been wrestling with this civic domination problem, which is, in fact, I've come to realize the domination system is the problem of the world, and it's economic domination, however we use it. So I'd love to figure out how fast I can accelerate your platform to then record interviews and then take those platforms to the podcasting world and to the masterminding world, because there's a whole bunch of people out there through 7 Vortex that we can get to quickly. So I'd like to actually roll out some of these interviews in the month of December, because by then we will have tested it, tried it, applied it, reclaimed, cleaned it up, and made it available for rough draft sharing to common citizens, which is where we have to get it to, the space between.
You want to respond to that at all, John?
Well, absolutely. I'm going to make a very extravagant statement here, and I apologize. And I say this with love to everybody on the planet. We have only now to act.
That's
and
right.
We must act decisively, constructively, effectively, efficiently, intelligently, wisely, with love, care, kindness, and from true understanding of the meaning and implications of every choice, every step on the path from this moment forward, as a species, as nations, as individuals, as genders, as cultures. This quality of consciousness is being required of us.
Yep.
There is a pressure in this world that is formative. It's not destructive. This is the birth of humanity's future that we're experiencing. These are the birth pangs, the pressures on the baby that is of the future of humanity, that are generating this process. So if we look at all of it as that, there is no problem. There's only process, and process that can be augmented, optimized, catalyzed, supported, nurtured, loved, appreciated, respected, honored. And so we would simply suggest that if we can look at the world dispassionately, we're not advocating any particular religion, without attachment, without aversion, without want, with love, and say, whatever it takes to get there is what is necessary. Whatever we must choose in order to get there collectively and together is what's necessary. And we can collaboratively and collectively do that. And the terrible option that's available to us is, where do we apply resources, time, energy, and funding and technology? We don't have a system for determining that. We don't have a decision support system in our world. There are innumerable beautiful efforts. Yours, one of them, is excellent. It's very resonant. We're very resonant with your approach, etc., Joy. And that said, absent that integration point, that synthesis point of wisdom, understanding, knowledge, technology, solutions, capacities, templates, models that can be tested and refined and evolved and aligned with the health of the world and human rights constantly, and the evolution of values and ethics on this planet, to take us from our history into a future that we all collectively choose via our own free will, out of love. Absent that system, the current system is like a heart in fibrillations, all of the cells beating out of time with each other, not pumping any blood. There needs to be a sinus rhythm that keeps the heart beating in a wave, a steady wave, collectively, globally. We're trying to generate that sinus rhythm simultaneous to the synchronization of all of these brilliant efforts that are all over in the world. So what we're suggesting is that as resources become more scarce, and that's true. They are becoming more scarce. We have consumed them already to get to this moment of brilliant capacity and have this conversation on Zoom on an internet that is a conflicted, dissonant internet. We need to bring harmony to all of that. There needs to be a system of harmonization. It's not in place yet. That said, we're asking everyone, help us build it. Help us build it together with all of your brilliance. So where we put every moment of our time, every choice, every bit of time, energy, knowledge, wisdom, technology, and love from this moment forward is ever more important. Because if we don't, we may run out of resources. There's lots of statistics that say we're nearing that point of no return. Last metaphor, there's a concept of that deep divers that are competitive divers. They dive down 400 feet underwater on a weighted sled on a cable on one breath of air, and then they come back to the surface, free swim to the surface. It's not uncommon for them to get between 5 and 10 feet from the surface, run out of oxygen, and drown. Shallow water blackout. That is a metaphor that we're striving to ensure does not occur globally. We're trying to ensure that we manage our air, our oxygen, that breath that's available to all of us right now collectively in the most efficient, effective ways so that we don't spin our wheels in any way, and that we can determine what are the most optimal efforts, approaches, and technologies or solutions or intervention strategies or simply ways of evolving into higher consciousness. And that process, that conversation must be had. There must be a space for that conversation and a synthesis of all the brilliance of all the people of the world. So absolutely, I'm fine if you're open to it, presenting or participating on your channel Joy. And that said, as an organization, we are laser focused on that point of light, that single point of light for all of humanity that hopefully will be the guiding understanding that humanity generates together. That humanity in all of its wisdom and its love and its goodness and its potential generates together. Now, how we get there, we're open to anyone's suggestions. And that said, we feel there must be a system that brings us together and unites us, mobilizes us, organizes us, and draws upon our creative capacities, simultaneous to everyone's individual and collective and local and community efforts, all in alignment, all in orchestrated synchronization, in a beautiful, graceful dance. And your efforts, Joy, are part of that dance. So of course we want to dance in that venue. And we appreciate the opportunity to doing so. I don't know if that answered your question.
We have 12 minutes until our scheduled closing time. So thank you, everyone, for being here this long. And we have, so John, we could share your slide and then I could do my closing slides. And does that feel okay for everyone, for you?
I'm okay with it if you folks are. You've been incredibly kind, patient, caring, and attentive and contributory in this process. Yeah. This is a simple slide, and hopefully it's one that will enhance our collective understanding so we can all align. We can all become coherently murmurative in our process.
Is this the right slide?
It is.
Oh, good.
Again, sorry, short time, it's the case for the whole world. Short time to take action necessarily and to get decisive optimal results. So we need to re-understand the climate crisis and the poly crisis. It's not a bunch of carbon that's heating up the planet that we need to diminish and then we'll all be okay and everything will be fine. The climate crisis is a school book for the planet, for humanity. It is, paradoxically, it's a gift that looks like a problem. The question is, can we unwrap it quickly enough and find it, the book of it, the school book of it, the educational offering that it's generating for us? Can we read it quickly enough, understand it quickly enough, and then act from the wisdom and insight that it's bringing us, rather than fearing it, running away from it, denying it, seeing it as a problem rather than as a process, seeing it as a problem rather than as a transformational evolutionary opportunity. If we misinterpret it, then we're going to act not in accord with wisdom, consciousness, and love, and in an effective, efficient enough way. So our understanding is that the process of climate crisis resolution, which is not, we would suggest committing to global transformation and to love, kindness, care, and health rather than solving the climate crisis, is our better option. Now, that means there needs to be a marketing system for that understanding to occur in this world. That sure, it's okay to be motivated through urgency and fear in regard to the climate crisis, and many people can only be motivated by fear. They're not either knowledgeable, conscious enough, and collectively caring enough. They're only trying to get by day, feed their family, keep a roof over their heads, get food, water, and medicine. They can't be motivated by unconditional love for all of humanity in the present moment because they're not in that space yet, and they've not been supported to get there yet. And there isn't a system and infrastructure to support them as of yet to get there, and then to sustain them, to offer them necessary resources so they don't go back into fear modes. And they can't know that. They're beautiful, graceful beings, and they've not been educated, supported, and honored as of yet as a global community to get them to that point of wise understanding and empowered action and capacity to collectively murmurate, orchestrate, organize, and effectively take action in the time available. So if we were to replace climate crisis resolution here with optimized, organized, effective, efficient transformation globally and locally into sustainability, renewal, reharmonization with the planet, and regeneration, i.e. global health for all species in the world, we would suggest that's a great way to go. In order for that to happen, many different forms of education must occur. Certainly the educational system must be redesigned, and paradoxically, we don't have time to redesign it. There's too much systemic resistance. If we fight that tide, that current of existing educational systems, we will waste our resources and potentially arrive through shallow water blackout at a recognition of too little, too late, in the wrong, not optimal direction, not successful, not intelligent enough, not conscious enough, not caring enough, not resolute and courageous enough, and out of problem solution thinking instead of transformational and transmutational understandings. AI technology is as far as I'm aware, is the only delivery system that can offer this collective new understanding and insight, and literally counterbalance the destructive, divisive narratives that are occurring in our world right now that are creating judgment and hatred and fear and misunderstanding and distrust. We need to get to trust each other again as a species. All of us trust ourselves, trust each other, trust the people we're in a relationship with, trust the planet, trust nature, and love at the same time. So there needs to be a delivery system for that realized collective conscious capacity. And we feel that the only one that we're aware of is via the internet, which is the basic highway, the delivery vehicle, the AI systems, informed and imbued with conscious, caring, heartfelt, spiritual, and love and kindness and care, as well as very practical, grounded understanding of we're biological beings. We're part of this ecosystem. We're just an expression of the planet, and we haven't yet recognized that. If we can accept that we're that, and only that, then we're going to love the planet as ourselves, and we're going to love each other as ourselves. And in that moment, we will act decisively, collectively, in service to each other, and to the future children of this world and all other species equally. So I don't know if that offered any insight. I hope so. You folks are brilliant and wonderful and appreciated beyond words. And thank you for being here. Thank you for tolerating me yammering in this moment. You've been very kind to remain so long.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. Sorry for my slide mix up. We're gonna just do some closing slides and then make our way into another world for the weekend. And we can continue this conversation ongoing. We're here online live every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And so we can keep collaborating there and in other venues. So
Thank you.
Just gonna share some things. So just one thing that's new, that's kind of a time sensitive thing. We have a collaborator, Anthony David Adams, who's hosting a book writing course that's supported by AI. And to register for it, you can email him and you can get $500 off of the course with our code Phoenix for the discount code. And I hope that Julie has the link. She's going to put in the chat the more details on the course, and so you can look into that if it's something for you. So yeah, that's one offer and opportunity that just popped up. Also, World System Solutions is a nonprofit organization. We rely on donations, grants, etc. So if you have any capacity or motivation to donate, that would be amazing. This is the QR code that you can scan to donate. Julie's also going to put the link in the chat. We also have a membership opportunity, which is really cool. It's a way to donate and also receive benefits. So that's all on the link that Julie's going to put, is what the membership entails. There's 3 tiers, and one of them includes John Jones's books. You would get a PDF of his books, A World Without Fear and Enter the Era of Empowerment. And another membership includes quarterly Q&As with John and other, so check that out. And then the other links that Julie's going to put in the chat are to volunteer with us. We have things like helping us clip important scenes from videos and putting them on social media, or other volunteer projects. We also would love to hear your feedback. So there's a survey for feedback for this summit in the links in the chat, and we will send that out after this too, because we'd love to hear your feedback. If you didn't register for this summit and you want to get into our communication system, if you fill out this survey, it's 3 questions. It's really easy. Then you'll get into our system, and we can communicate more. We also have another summit scheduled for February 5th. If you want to pre-register for that, that's available. And we've talked a little bit about the Phoenix platform, and there's a lot more information on that. So please check our website out to learn more about that, or just write to us directly. connect@wssnow.org to get any papers or information that you want to learn more. So one of the things we've said a little bit about, and maybe not so directly, is that we really need an organizing platform so that all the efforts we've talked about today can be acted on somewhere, so we can all synchronize our efforts. So we are fundraising for the Phoenix platform. It's a huge initiative, and it's really important and necessary. And so if there's any leads you have on how to get that built and implemented in the world, that would be amazing. So that's all from me, and we appreciate you attending our 5th summit and for your dedication and love and attention. And we hope that this helped you to further your own efforts, and that we can come back together in the future and rework this and move it forward. And thank you to our speakers and our questionnaires and everything, our people who are in the back end making sure the summit goes. So thanks to everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
So
everybody.
inspired. Thank you. See you next time, and let's keep the conversations going.
Yay.
The world is good. Perfect summer was a bit